Hey everybody, welcome to Frame Trap, the second episode of Frame Trap in the new studio. I wonder what the Frame Trap episode number will be where that's no longer exciting to say. Where it's like, okay, yeah, we're in the studio now. Don't need to put that in. You know, at what point do you hit that groove?
Few months.
I long for that boring groove.
Oh, yeah. It's not boring yet.
Dull, that sounds great.
No, not boring groove, but it's just like that. You're taking off the shrink wrap moment, you know? Joining me there, getting in on the action, right next to me, Brandon Jones.
Yo.
Brandon, sometimes when I don't see you for a while, I forget how good your voice is.
Oh.
Like, not really forget, I suppose. It's not like I'm unaware of how good your voice is, but sometimes I just I'm like, oh yeah, like there's a reason this guy voices everything. It's really nice.
And just to send a compliment your way, there's a reason you review so many damn games, because you're a very good writer. And I read the Metro Exodus review, and I scroll down to the next page, and this paragraph, I'm like, yeah, Ben, a Ben Moore script, let's do it.
Best in the biz.
Yeah, the rarest compliments come from Bloodworth, which I think fits his persona very well. And so when you get like that Bloodworth compliment, it's nice. He had that on the Metro script, and I was like, okay, now all of my anxiety has gone away. Yeah.
Win.
And right down there at the end, just a lovely human being, if we want to throw a compliment down his way.
Thank you.
Michael Huber.
Hello.
I said to you before the show, and it still stands now that we're recording the show, I like your shirt.
Thank you.
Just a nice little...
It's an oldie but a goodie. I rarely bust it out because, it's got like a tight collar here. So it's
a little itchy.
Yeah, it kind of freaks me out up here, but...
Yeah.
Kind of stretching it out.
I don't even know. Do people still wear turtlenecks? Is that a thing?
My grandma does.
Okay.
My grandma goes like 5 layers at a time.
Oh,
so
wow.
like turtleneck, shirt, jacket, like multiple layers.
I think you got to be like John Hamm to pull off a turtleneck. There's only a few people that can do it without you questioning, turtleneck, okay.
Well, growing up, I would sometimes get forced into turtlenecks, and exactly what you were describing, Huber, just an absolutely terrible feeling. Like
if you're not in like
being
Aspen,
lightly
it's
choked. Yeah, nope, not my thing. Wasn't into it. Haven't worn a turtleneck in like 20 some years. But anyway, before we get started with the show, we have a lot to talk about. We're kind of in a nice position where the reason these people are on the panel is because we all have reviewed high-profile games, and we're going to get to talk about them in depth, which is nice. And we've played them, pretty much front to back. But before we get into that, it's awards season. The Grammys just happened. The Oscars are happening. Do you guys get into this stuff? Do you enjoy these award ceremonies that are outside of video games that are a big, popular deal? You care?
Less and less every year.
Why less and less?
I don't know what. Yeah, because I think maybe it was because when I started getting into reviewing and I appreciate everyone that supports us and watches our reviews, is interested in the analysis that we will hopefully provide today, on this show. But I don't seek out a lot of that stuff to determine what I will enjoy. And so when something wins an award, it's not like, phew, now we know what the best movie of the year was. It's just like, oh, okay, that's what Golden Globes gave it. That's what the Oscars gave it. And so I know some people that have Oscar parties every single year. They get really excited about it. And I'm curious to see what won. But to me, it's like at the Game Awards, what is the Sonic Fox? The esports player.
Yeah.
That's why you watch those shows, is for moments like that. So it's nothing to do with Best Picture or whatever,
Sure.
So those are the moments, a speech that really resonates, or In Memoriam is always one of my favorite moments. Not because I'm celebrating people who passed, but I love montages like that. I love when, as an editor, the Oscars will do a tribute to Westerns or something. Yeah. It's fun to see. But then you can just find those on YouTube now. So it's a little less special than it was in the 80s and 90s.
I love the Oscars.
Why do you love the Oscars?
For the people. To, watching a movie and then whether it's a small one or a big one, the big ones, obviously you have that feeling of wow, how did people make this? So it's nice to celebrate that, getting the special effects people out there. And then the smaller ones, the storytelling, the acting, the writing, and just celebrating that. I love it. I love the Oscars every single year.
I kind of feel like the Grammys and the Oscars are a little bit less relevant to me now that recommendations are so plentiful. I mean, just so many outlets out there on the internet build their entire careers out of giving you recommendations. But I will always be grateful to the Oscars because way back in the day when Spirited Away won Best Picture, I was aware of Studio Ghibli and I was aware of Princess Mononoke, but I hadn't really taken that dive. And just seeing it and seeing how gorgeous it looked, it kind of got me into those movies. Yeah, nice. And I really loved it, and so it was a nice moment for me.
Documentary is a good category for that because I think a lot of just art in general is subjective. Film, of course, as well. But if there are 5 films nominated for best documentary, like they're all probably pretty good. Yeah. You should probably go check all of those out.
Yeah,
it's funny because when we do awards, you see comments like, "Oh, well, they clearly just did it because of X, Y, and Z," and they get a little. They throw in some assumptions. They get a little bit reductive. It's going to happen. I find myself being that way about the Grammys, just because I'm not really that aware of the process, and I enjoy music, but I'm certainly not an expert on it. And so sometimes I see the nominations and the winners, and I'm like, did the most popular thing just win? Right. Because sometimes it seems like that. Yeah. Like it's hard not walking away with that assumption. But
it's also fun to see what's the most popular thing. You know, it's like, it's just true. The context. And like when I was a kid, like when I was 8 years old watching the Oscars, I was like, that's the best movie. I think the last one I really jumped up and down was Braveheart. I remember seeing Braveheart and being like, this has to win. And it did. I was like, yeah, But like ever since then, like it's been rare that an Oscars will come up and I'm like, this needs to win. Like this is clearly the best, and I will, go to war with anybody who disagrees.
I usually have that feeling, but about like other categories, like I need this person to win cinematography. I need this person to win actor.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I needed that to win best editing. After I saw that, I was like, that better win, and it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Braveheart and I guess Gladiator as well are in interesting spaces in my mind where they were so big and popular, and I saw them and I liked them as much as everybody said they were good, but I haven't watched them in years and years and years. And so they kind of have that position where I'm like, I'm worried about rewatching this because it was like a great time and place thing. I wonder if it would still give me those same emotions.
Oh, they hold up.
I think Braveheart holds up. I haven't seen Gladiator in a long time.
Gladiator holds up. It's not like this perfect masterpiece, it's a little more Hollywood blockbuster than you might remember, but it holds up. Okay. It's got some moments. For sure.
Braveheart, like...
so intense.
It's a movie where, like I said, I haven't seen it in such a long time, so many of the details are gone from memory. But I kind of just like that feeling of wanting to go to battle, that feeling of getting hyped up. I think is kind of what sticks with me.
Braveheart was also great.
Speeches.
Yeah, it was also the end of the era. Like now, when you see a bit like Troy, I remember when that first came out, and there's just like CG soldiers everywhere. Like most of the stuff in Braveheart was practical. Those were all a bunch of crazy people running around and kilts and armor and swinging swords, and so it's like cool to see that.
This is such a Jones thing, but it's so funny in watching. You'll agree with me. I'm not throwing shade, but there's like when there's big battle scenes,
right?
And you see in the background people just like not in.
Right. Totally. Oh sure. Oh of course. Of course. I love pointing out stuff like that. Yeah. It's fun. In the HD era, it's even fun to see stuff like Return of the King, when like the tower falls at the end of Return of the King, and like all the orcs are fleeing, Mordor. You can, like, you look in the corner, it's like I'm watching this on a much bigger TV than they thought I would, and you can see dudes just running over each other and like CG things clipping, and it's just gosh. It's like they're like, no one's gonna look that close, right? It's like seeing like Lion King like in IMAX, like not intended, not like Beauty and the Beast, like nobody has faces in the crowd. It's like not good to blow this up.
This might be too little of a question before we get the show really rolling, but did you guys see that Aladdin teaser trailer?
Yeah, I don't even know. The comment I made on social media is like, they're not even trailers yet. They're like sneak peeks.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to sneak so much.
They certainly are causing a reaction.
Let's get a trailer, because I think that's what we're missing. Is like Aladdin hasn't said anything yet.
True.
So we need that heart. Like we need the relationship between Aladdin and Jasmine. Like we need those characters to come through to be like, oh, okay, now I like these people.
I love Will Smith, but it's like it's not a genie anymore. It's Will Smith. It
right, we don't.
Looks.
Yeah. And it's all we have.
There's that disconnect.
They're shining the spotlight so sharply on him that it's all we can talk about.
Yeah.
It's not even really Will Smith to me. It's like Will Smith grafted onto this thing that doesn't look good, and so by grafting it on, it looks even more weird.
Yeah.
I have no problem with Will Smith being the genie.
Yeah.
But
it just
if it looks like that the whole movie.
Yeah, it doesn't look
I mean, I know he goes between the genie form and the human form, but that looks bad. I don't know what else to say. It's Disney. How can it look like that?
You'd think they'd have the budget.
They're going Star Wars with that. It's too much, too soon.
Yeah, it's
Too much.
Because I think of
no
Ant-Man with young Michael Douglas and the facial technology.
Oh man, yeah.
So right after Ant-Man, they did it again in Civil War with Robert Downey.
Right.
It looks so good.
No, the best was Kurt Russell in Guardians, man.
And Guardians,
that was insane.
Yeah,
in
so
Guardians.
it's like
Michelle Pfeiffer and Wasp, like really great.
Where's that tech in this?
Where's the tech?
Yeah, what the heck?
Share the tech.
Call James Cameron.
There's no time. Got to make
You
Dumbo.
own everything.
Yeah.
Gotta make more.
Um,
Gotta make Hunchback. Gotta make more.
Like I mentioned at
enough, get it out.
the top of the show, we've got a bunch of games to talk about. Brandon, you reviewed Crackdown 3. Huber, you reviewed Far Cry New Dawn. I reviewed Metro Exodus. I think there's a lot to say about all of them, but let's start with something universal. I think we've all played it. I guess, Brandon, I don't know if you've played it. Apex Legends.
Yeah. Well,
Kinda-
I played it in our group stream. That was great.
Yeah. Right.
that-
I wasn't there.
That's
Yeah.
what such a group stream like that has so much value to me, because it's like this might be the only time I'm gonna make for Apex Legends. I'm reviewing Anthem next
Squad
week.
up, dude,
and
anytime, Jones.
I really want to get through Far Cry New Dawn. Having reviewed Far Cry 5, and so it's like not because I don't like it, but just because I'm just not gonna be able to take time. So
Brandon, I don't have a ton of time to spare, and that was kind of my thought process going into Apex Legends, where it's like, I'll give this a shot. It'll probably be cool, but then I'll have to move on to other things. And I liked it so much that I want to make more time for it. I think the game is really good, and I started appreciating it more and more the further that I got in. I'm still garbage at the game, but I am appreciating it more and more. Huber, as somebody who really likes and stands by Fortnite and still plays it consistently, how are you feeling about Apex?
Feeling really good.
Nice.
When I have a little bit of free time, I'm queuing up Apex, not Fortnite. So it has definitely taken over that spot right now, because I can really only play one game like that at a time, But I really, really, really like it. I think the pinging system is revolutionizes the way you can play with strangers. It's so amazing. And I'm enjoying that every class feels different. And what really sold me to begin with, the launch of this game was so great. I really liked the trailer that came out, showing the characters. I loved this, Jones, because it immediately got me attached. I was like, hey, these characters aren't bad. These people are pretty cool, actually, And I don't know why, but those types of trailers don't usually resonate with me, especially when it's not really gameplay, But the trailer sold me before I'd even played the game, and then that feeling just kept going.
Yeah, I have so many positive things to say about it, and so I feel a little bit guilty kind of jumping in with something that I don't like. But you mentioned the look of the characters, and I do wish Apex Legends looked like 10 to 15% better than it does.
Sure.
I don't think it needs to be leaps and bounds, but there is kind of this slight plasticky look to the characters. And not that big of a deal most of the time, because obviously you're in first person.
And kind of the geography is a little weird looking, kind of the rocks and stuff.
There's just some stuff that just a little sprucing up would be appreciated. But I don't think it looks terrible by any means. In fact, I think it has a pretty cohesive look by and large, despite some things I think maybe needing a little bit of polishing. But there are touches that I like when you're flying in and you can see the trails of everybody.
Dude,
that's so cool.
And that music is the most hyped feeling ever, dude. Every single time.
It's great.
It's out of control.
And you see the creatures in the back walking on the sea.
Apparently those are from Titanfall, but I don't remember. We asked
I don't
chat.
remember them. Yeah.
Chat was like, yeah, they're in there.
I reviewed Titanfall. Don't remember them. But yeah, Apex is a really cool game. You mentioned the pinging system, Huber, and that's so important because I've been mostly playing with people I know or people that are on my friends list, and that's great. But the few times that I have played with randoms, I've played with people and it's like, I'm sorry, but I have to mute you because you're being really annoying.
Yeah.
But you can still communicate. And so it kind of, it doesn't feel like an immediate wash because you can still be like, oh, okay, this thing that you need is over there. I can tell you, I can go into my inventory and tell you that I need a sight for this type of weapon. It's just kind of amazing how thorough it is. I feel like if you could ping only half the stuff, we'd still be praising it.
Yeah.
But it goes way deeper than I would initially expect, I suppose. Brandon, I don't even really know how you feel about Battle Royale, I guess.
Oh, I love it. I'm just terrible at it. I just am not. I don't hunt for those types of experiences. I don't know why. Like to me, my favorite part of Fortnite is just the fear. You know, just you walk into a house. You know, it's like Friday the 13th almost. Where you're just like in the middle of a field, and it's like, you know, it's
Am I
like
being watched?
Is death just gonna come, out of nowhere? But I think one of my favorite things about Apex is just the 3-person squads, and I think that's really changed the vibe of like being in a zone, deciding, because they divide it, like PUBG and Fortnite does, where it's like, here's this cluster of buildings, and then there'll be like a cave or a cliff or a walkway or something that like separates you from like this next little burg that you can go into and find stuff. And so a lot of times, like you and your teammates will just be in this area and nobody else is, but they're coming. And so with the ping system, having 2 people support you, putting distance between yourself and your teammates, but not too much, increases the chance that one of you is going to see them coming, and you're kind of like hunker down and be ready for it.
Yeah.
And like in Fortnite, it's just so fast. It's just with the destruction and how high you can jump and people like landing and teleporting. Like you just never know when death is going to happen, and that's exciting. But it just feels much more like a military campaign in Apex, where it's like. And from when we played in the group stream, it was just fun when it's like, oh, wait, we can hear something's going to happen. And so like, okay, I'm going to go up on top of here, you go over there, as opposed to like, oh, someone's in that building, I'm just going to run at that building and see what happens.
Yeah. I feel like the different characters make me feel a lot more connected to my team, where in other Battle Royales, you're communicating, but it's always a very similar type of communication where it's like, okay, we just need to make sure everybody has a gun, everybody has healing and stuff. Whereas in this, playing as Lifeline, a support character, people are like, hey man, I found this alt accelerator. I'm going to give it to you so you can pump up your alt and then you can drop something that's going to benefit everybody. And so it's like, oh, okay, this thing that we're doing, this interaction, feels unique because I chose this specific character, and so I'm more attached to who I'm playing as, and I feel like I'm more a part of a team, which I think is a pretty cool experience.
Love that, Ben. Absolutely. Like Bloodhound, being able to track people is so cool. Seeing their footprints, and you actually feel like you're tracking them, It's like you just see the pings of their footprints, you're like, yo, I got a scent, like let's follow it.
Right. And the flavor that they have is kind of nice because you talk about Bloodhound and how, like, being able to see people or like get a red outline of people or see footprints or stuff, like all that is cool. But the fact that you're kind of this mysterious hunter, I think makes it a little bit special than just like some generic soldier or like creating portals and going through it and the way that the screen changes. Also,
it's
pretty good.
Another really smart change is being able to revive down teammates, like when they're down out of the game. So many times in Fortnite, I play with 2 of my friends, so we're already a person down because we do 4-person squads. They don't have trios yet. So we do 4-person squads, there's 3 of us. We get in a shootout, but one of us is dead. And it's like, all right, now there's just 2 of us for the rest of the match. I love that you get rewarded now for surviving the attack, winning, getting the thing from your teammate, and then going to the respawn point and calling them in. And it's perfectly balanced too, because when they come back in, they have no items.
Right.
So they got to resupply. Just a smart
enforces back up your teammates, stay close to
teamwork.
them.
Exactly. You're never out till you're all
listen
out.
for when they're in trouble, even if you're not like actually communicating verbally. Like when you see that target come up that they've been taken down, like act on it, get there.
Love that.
It also just creates more moments of excitement because you think about traditional Battle Royale and it's like, well, the beginning is exciting because you don't have anything, and so just trying to find anything valuable is nice. And then obviously when you fight with people or you get a clutch revive, but now you have this whole new element where it's like, oh man, one guy survived and he's bringing us both back, and we know immediately where to go to get more stuff. And it feels awesome. It feels like even if you suck, right, and you don't do any damage to anybody, but you get brought back, you still feel like you kind of had a moment.
Totally.
You don't just the whole match wasn't a complete wash. Which is pretty cool. How do you guys feel about
the map?
The map, sure. Let's talk about the map. That's a good thing to talk about.
Throw the assist.
Well, I was actually going to talk about like the skins and stuff, but the map is way more interesting to talk about.
So I like the map, but it is the only thing I'm concerned about moving forward with Apex Legends. again, going to be comparing it to Fortnite, the biggest game on Earth until now. Like,
Right.
The reason I stayed with Fortnite for so long is because the map kept changing. The map had so much to discover. The challenges could let you explore the map and do other things rather than going for the victory, which I love.
Yeah.
So obviously we're at ground zero here, day 15, not even for this game.
Right.
I wonder if they're going to add more maps or how they're going to expand this map. Because right now there's not a lot to discover. I know there is that Easter egg where you can find like the 10 dinosaur stuffed animals and they do something when you shoot them all. Something cool. But as of now, there's no real incentive to kind of explore other than like, let's get the loot and follow the circle. But again, it's so early. Like Fortnite didn't start that way.
Yeah.
You know, that took time.
Yeah, in terms of discovery or finding secrets, you're right there, as far as I know. But there are things about the map that I really like. I think the like rope things that you go into and then you can launch again. Yeah. Those are really fun and cool and very useful. The fact that you get just the sliding is ridiculous, and you can cover so much ground. And the map is constructed in a way where you can pretty much slide a lot. There are just huge hills that you can go down. It makes moving around pretty fun and cool, and yeah,
a lot of it looks samey, you know, like brown with a little green. Like it's hard to kind of identify each location as its own thing. I think I've gravitated towards Thunderdome because like Mad Max, that's really, or the Pit, I think of Mortal Kombat. But there's not places where I've like, no, I love going here. Like let's land here because I love the way it feels and looks. There's not really a lot of that yet.
Yeah, and you're coming from comparing it to Fortnite for sure, which has undergone the most drastic changes with the map. But when I think about Blackout or I think about PUBG, I actually think the map is slightly more interesting than the first map in PUBG and what's going on in Blackout.
Oh, yeah.
Like there seems to be a little bit more of an identity. And again, I think there are like the banners where you see the top 3 players kind of adds to this Running Man vibe a little bit, which is really cool. And so, I agree with you. It could be spruced up a bit, but it's not...
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not bad.
I want to say a little bit about that, just the kind of the tone. I know for Battle Royale, like a lot of people are like, I do not care what the premise is at all. I only care about how it feels, how it looks. But I think it can be really tough, especially with all of the, times we made fun of Battleborn and a lot of fighting games have really like weird characters that are like trying way too hard to be likable. And I think Apex actually hits like a nice middle ground where like they have characters that I think are probably more defined by their abilities. So like I might be into somebody, but like typically I would go straight soldier in this mode. I can't remember her name, but
Bandolier.
No,
Wraith. There's Wraith.
Good. Yeah, I haven't played as Wraith yet, but like I think it's really ability first with a lot of them, and then you're like, oh, the personality's neat, but it's not like. I don't see from what I've experienced with that roster so far that you would have a character that you would like the abilities of, but I just cannot stand their dialogue. Like they're trying to make me laugh or they're trying to be way too edgy. And I think when you have something like Fortnite that is mostly cartoonish and silly, and we're going to throw Santa Claus in and no one's going to bat an eye because the world just kind of supports that, alongside something like Black Ops, which actually does have characters that kind of do come from a lineage, not necessarily like a serious story in Blackout, but like way more context. And this is kind of in the middle where it is playful. It is like Running Man. So like it, there is context of like all these people are the same and they're dying and we're all just kind of pirates and we're jumping in to try to get as much loot as we can. But at the same time, they do have a little bit of personality. I just think it's a nice balance.
Yeah.
Where I right away, I wasn't like, whoa, they're trying so hard to make us like these people.
I agree. I feel like they don't step on the personality gas too much. And they do find nice ways of injecting it that don't pop up all that often, but when they do, they're kind of cool. The executions are a good example of that for every single character.
I really want the Bloodhound one. Like some crazy stabbing action.
I haven't seen that one. I've seen him like throw a knife at your face.
And pretty good. Tons of things they can say. Skin. I guess we're kind of transitioning into that conversation, but just when you went through that list, like whoa, every category, it's like 30 options for one character.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I think the abilities as well are a nice addition that do kind of mix things up and attach you to your character, but I don't feel like they're so vital that they're happening all the time and take away from the central appeal of shooting somebody with this cool gun you found. Like that's still the primary way that you're moving through this game, and you can ignore those abilities and still do pretty well if you're super good at just raw BR. But they are important, they are useful, they are valuable, they are game-changing, in instance, but they're not so much so that it becomes annoying, which I like.
I think they're so specific that you miss them, but you don't, like you were saying, it's not mandatory, but it's like every decision you have to make, it's like, oh yeah, but I love that grappling hook, but I'm gonna go heal this time. And I think they do a good job of making it obvious what the other person was doing. So jumping into that game for the first time, when I saw Blood or you, I don't remember who we were playing with, and I would see them do their ability, it was very clear from me as an outside viewer looking at their character, what they were doing, how they were utilizing it, and I was like, that's cool. Yeah. So like they do a good job of selling these other characters when you're playing as one of 9 or whatever, when you just see them do something. And like that's one of my favorite things in multiplayer games, where you're like, you see some ability, even if it's like an MMO, where you're just like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I got to try that class now because that looks like fun.
Yeah. Speaking of caring about these characters, the skins that I've seen for both weapons and characters, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, and I haven't done like an exhaustive look at everything, but I haven't seen anything where I'm like, wow, that's really blowing me away visually.
There's one Bloodhound skin where he looks like a shinobi.
Okay.
That I want, and that's it. I think it's harder being a first-person game. Like you get a skin in Fortnite and you get to stare at it all the time when you do your emotes too. You know, you're seeing the person in the skin doing it. Mm-hmm. So being first person, there's a little more emphasis now on weapon skins, which I've just never in my life been a fan of.
Me too.
Ever.
Really
just
care.
give me a black gun and I'm good to go. So yeah, there's that challenge. At the same time though, when you're playing with a team, you get to see your teammates wearing the skin. Yeah. So it becomes more about like what you look like to other people rather than you enjoying it yourself.
Sure. So I will say the intimidation factor for Apex is strong in ways I did not expect, because when you get killed, you see how good the other person is. Like
300 kills with these people.
Right. It was days after release, and people had hundreds of kills. Yeah. And I was just like,
what's crazy, Ben, too?
People are insane.
What's crazy
How is this possible?
Is that those stats are for that character they're using.
Right.
So it's like, they have 300 something kills with just that character.
Right.
Who knows if this is their alt character?
Right.
Like, you know?
It was just such a sharp turn where I remember booting up Apex
day one,
chill. And it was definitely chill-er. Like it was very obvious that people were still figuring it out. Not everybody was an expert. Yeah. Like the very next day, the jump in skill was crazy. Yeah. And of course, that could just be luck of the draw or whatever. But as I've been playing, I'm consistently shocked at how many kills people have racked up in such a short amount of time. So yeah. Apex Legends, cool.
Battle Pass next month. Good. To me, that is the beginning of the line right now. Yep. So we're in kind of like, I'm just going to say we're in early access right now. And then that Battle Pass, to me, even though it's not early access, my headcanon, the Battle Pass next month will be like, all right, let's go. Season 1, see how this shakes out, see how the rewards go down, what you're earning, see if they do challenges, like explore the map or... And do you guys think they'll add another map, or do you think they're going to stick with one for quite a while and kind of tweak it, or what do you guys think?
I think both changing the map and mixing it up or adding new maps is a valid approach. I don't have a strong feeling of it needs to be this way, but just from the outside, I'm not actively playing Blackout, but when I watch people play it, or I just don't hear a lot about it, like that is a game that seems like it's kind of dropped off a little bit just because it wasn't consistently grabbing people, and I hope that doesn't happen with Apex. I hope they just keep trying stuff, keep introducing new things. Obviously, Fortnite has done a great job of that, and it's nice that a win for Respawn.
Yes.
Well
deserved.
That feels good.
Yes.
Yeah. That feels good.
I really hope this spikes Titanfall 2 sales.
Well, I have
let's
read
get curious.
that it spiked interest in Titanfall 2. Like, there are more people playing Titanfall 2 now, which is cool. Last question. You guys seemed kind of into it just based on our conversation, but let's, they're going to add different ways to play. Mm-hmm. Are you envisioning yourself playing like maybe alone or with more people or whatever it ends up being exactly, or are you happy with 3-on-3? Or 3-person squads, not 3-on-3.
Yeah, I hope they add a solo mode just because I think the 3-person team is really, really good. I think that to me it seems like that's the main way to play the game.
Yeah, it seems to work well. Yeah.
And of course, the squad synergy with using each person's abilities on top of each other. But I would like a way just, if it's late night, I want to play 1 or 2 games. Like, just let me go in by myself.
What is it, 60 max?
60 people,
60,
yeah. 30v30, all of it. Keep going. Keep doing ideas, do a weekend of it, see how it goes. And that's how I feel about the map and skins too, is I think like it's smart for a game like this, especially a game that's just like poof, it exists, to just put everything as much as you can on the table, see what everyone gravitates towards, see what the most popular drop locations are on the map, see what skins people really like, what styles they think are really appropriate for which character. Then you plan like the next phase. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like, we got to think up all this stuff now. You probably have like boatloads of ideas, and then you just kind of dig whatever ideas fit most of what critiques that people have.
Sure.
Because you don't want to tell people too much, like, this is the style of this game. It's like, here's the world, here's the characters. We have other ideas for characters, but, we just want to see, like, what do you like?
Titans.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's a fun place to be. Like, at the beginning of a game, knowing that, like, your impact on this game is going to affect.
Can you imagine 1 versus 59? Titan.
Just a Titan?
Yeah.
And just killing so many people at once.
Yeah.
And just telling your friends, like, you hear, like, the sound, like, the footsteps in the distance. It'd be cool. I'm really excited, I guess, most excited for just new characters and seeing where they go with abilities and
it's
how.
Gonna be hype.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Also, the Peacekeeper shotgun, top tier.
It is.
Top tier shotgun. There's a mod on it, Jones,
I love the Peacekeeper.
where if you can find the rare mod where if you aim down the sights, it charges up like an energy blast.
Ian got that during the group stream, right?
Huber, I feel like most of my kills have been from the Peacekeeper.
Peacekeeper.
Yeah.
There's like an explosion of blood if you kill him point blank too.
We've had a good time talking about Apex Legends, so now I think it's time to talk about Crackdown 3.
Oh no. Which sadly I've played way more of than Apex Legends.
Yeah, Brandon, the reason why I start with that tone is you're not super hot on Crackdown 3.
I'm not. I feel bad. I don't like giving games bad scores. I've actually I feel bad because like I'm like one of the elder, members of the group. I've been at this a long time, and so like I do reserve, like Spider-Man was one that I think like you were like, well, I'd like to. I was like, you're not reviewing Spider-Man. I'm sorry, Huber. Like every now and then there's games where I'm just like, Red Dead, that's for me, and like I get lucky in that like I do tend to gravitate toward games that I think are probably going to be pretty good. I just really enjoyed the first Crackdown. I remember like the whole concept of like hanging onto buildings and like trying to find access points to like get to the top of high zones, and then like the gratification of like, oh, I can jump so much higher now. That feels so good, and just how readily available so much carnage was in that game. And then my wife was in Crackdown 2, and so I was like, well, I got a reason to play Crackdown 2 a lot. And then when we were divvying up the games this last month, I was like, oh, I have the most context, unfortunately, for the Crackdown series. So I
don't think I told you I had also beaten 1 and 2. I
guess
think
I'm on
I think
deck.
I kept that secret.
Oh, okay, good, yeah. Careful.
You finished 2?
With Brad.
Oh man, I did not like 2.
I should have.
There's
not wanna
something.
finish it.
No, yeah.
There's something about like forcing Brad to slog through a game he doesn't like co-op.
That gives you joy?
There's something like satisfactory.
What was the best slog?
Oh, it's got to be like Army of Two.
Huber, when I asked that question, I had Army of Two in my mind. Yep.
But Kane and Lynch 2 is another one where it's so bad. And both of us, like, he so many times was like, dude, we're not finishing this. I'm like, dude, we got to get to the credits, man. We're almost done.
Kane
Like,
and Lynch
let's
2
go.
Kane and Lynch 2 is a very short game. It
Very
is
short.
not long at all.
Yeah.
And it's not good, but there are a couple of scenes that are just so out there.
So
you
bad.
can get some entertainment out of Kane and Lynch 2. Yeah. Anyway, Crackdown 3. What does Crackdown 3 not do for you that you needed it to do?
First and foremost, I booted that game up, and within 5 minutes, I was like, "Oh no, this game just doesn't look good. This is just not a game that is striving to be different or to do things with open world games. And like, apologies to Crackdown. It got delayed a lot. There were a lot of development shakeups, and unfortunately, it got pushed back. A lot of other open world games, but like the open world genre is on fire this generation. Like even stuff like Far Cry 5, where I had a lot of issues with the story. Like that's a very fun game, and like its implementation of vehicles and AI that follows you around, and these are things that Crackdown 3 does. Like you can get in cars. I rarely found a reason to. You do rescue people, and then later I'll be in a mission, and like I'll hear the Goodwin, the guy who's like, "Hey, agent," the guy the whole time. He's like, people are here to help you. And I was like, there are? Oh yeah, that guy in the blue shirt there. Anyway, like it wasn't like, okay, for this area, I'm gonna bring these people tactically to solve this. It was just like, yeah, you'll hear gunfire, and that's people helping you. You know, like it wasn't something I actually like planned for. The game just looks poopy. It's just like, and I feel bad because some people are reaching out to me on Twitter that are like, I chose that word specifically.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are playing on the X. I did not. I played that on my original first Xbox One that I ever bought. It's the frame rate would stutter. I got tons of pop in with textures and buildings in the background. The city is extremely small. You can see, like, coming from Odyssey, it's just like, it's tough. Like some of these games, like Red Dead, like some of these games just pushed the bar for me so far with open world games that I play something like this, and I think that was kind of like my narrative with Crackdown 3, is I kept being like, okay, I'm not a fan at all of what the decisions they made in this one department of game design. Let's move on to the next one. And no, I'm not a fan of that either. Okay, well, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's move on to vehicles, or let's move on to combat now, or melee, or the story, or maybe just how quickly I can access things, or just kind of the zaniness of the comedy. And every single time I hit a theme, it's like, I don't like that either. And it's difficult. I think it's the lowest score I've ever given like anything. I don't know if I've ever gone this low on something. I might have, like disliked games more than this, but when I'm officially assigned a game to review,
sure.
It's a bummer to come up to that point where you're actually writing the script and being like, did I like anything about this game?
So Crackdown 3 is not a game that I would say takes itself super seriously.
No, or shouldn't. It's definitely in the Saints Row camp. And I love games like that.
The question is there any sort of humor or cleverness or quirkiness, I guess, that kind of maybe makes up for other things? Like, is that stuff strong or not really?
No, it's nice having Terry Crews in there. The one line that he said that I enjoy is when you slip off a building, he goes, "Fucking gravity," and like, I like that. That made me laugh. That was about it. Like everything else he said, I just kind of chuckled a little bit. His mix is really low. They almost kind of account for like, well, your camera's back here and he's all the way over there, so he would be kind of quiet. But it's just like, turn Terry Crews up, man. And admittedly, I didn't really spend a ton of time with the other agents. You can unlock them as you go through the game, but I'm like, I'm playing as Terry Crews.
Yeah,
like he's, this seems like what you should do when you play the game. And it's weird because like you unlock towers and Terry Crews like appears on top of the towers now, and he's like yelling. So when you go by those towers, you can hear him monologuing about stuff. And I'm like, this should be hilarious. Like he should just completely have free run of just going nuts in this game. But it was very clear, like we got his likeness, we got him in to record dialogue, but really didn't think about it past that. That like we want him to be the face of this, but you can also play these other characters. But when you take towers, they don't appear. It's only Terry Crews, but he's not the leader of the group. So who is he really? Like, it seems kind of like an advertising move and not necessarily like making the game design better. But again, one of those categories where I'm like, okay, visually doesn't look great. Mission design is not that exciting. Objectives I'm doing are not that great. Enemies, weapons are interesting, but like not. There's one good thing that like sucks everybody up and then explodes, and that's kind of fun, but you don't get it until very later in the game. Or I didn't really. And so I'm like, okay, the last bastion of hope is this game just bonkers crazy? Far Cry or Saints Row, where like I can sprout wings.
I feel like Far Cry applies as well,
but definitely much more Saints Row, where it's just like, even if I don't think that joke is funny, I think it's funny that you attempted to do that style of humor, where just everything seems so lacking. It just seems so like that they didn't really take one category to try to make up for all of the other flaws in the game. It's just everything was kind of C-. It's like, and that's
when I think of the recent open world games that are just so amazing. I think of Red Dead and Spider-Man and Assassin's Creed even. I just think of how inhabited those worlds feel.
Oh, yeah.
I just think of being in or being on a skyscraper in Spider-Man and just like looking down and seeing the cars drive by and just feeling that, or the mood of Red Dead, just slowly walking into a town and just feeling it. And everything I've seen of Crackdown 3, it feels lifeless. Is that fair to say?
And
Jones? Like, how is the world itself?
Like, the city is an island. It's a very small map, but like the city it's its own island, and it's this idea where this militia like rescued a lot of people and brought them there under the guise of protecting them. But then, of course, they became prisoners. They can't leave, and so you've come to this place, and you're like, this whole place is a big fort almost. It's like they own this city, they built this city, and so I'm really not only taking down, I'm dismantling them piece by piece by taking out prisons or their the pipeline structure where they're like pumping poison into the water supply and all this different stuff. And it's like, okay, if it's that, then really amp that up. Like one example that from the design wise, where I was like, oh, that's neat. And by the end of the game, I'm like, I'm so sick of these things. But they just have like big yellow projections of people just dancing on the buildings. So there's these big like, laser people that are just jamming. And I was like, oh, it's neat. You don't see that. It's kind of, it's an interesting thing to see from afar. Look up the top of the building. There's this big King Kong sized, character model dancing. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But it's just like, that's about it. Like, I'll go into a mini mall every now and then. It's like, oh, here's a pizza place. And it's like, it'd be cool if there was someone there eating pizza. Or when you went by, it's like, pizza pie or something. It's like, just make this world come alive. Make this world kind of like in my face a little bit more than just being bright.
Sure.
And there's just not a lot of, like, certainly no character. There was no spot on this map, none, zero, that I was like, oh yeah, that one building was cool. Like, oh yeah, that one place I kind of enjoyed being there, or like, oh, I'm gonna admire this view. Like, I only got views for review purposes to show, like, here's what this map looks like.
Right.
But there was never like a vista I enjoyed, or like a skyscraper I finally got to the top of and was like, whoa, cool. It's just like, all right, on to the next thing.
Just for fun, it's on Game Pass. You could get it right now. I booted it up on PC. I played for about an hour or so. And I kind of walked away from that initial hour being like, this is fine-ish. To me, the thing I guess that would keep me going is I did have some amount of fun just going after the agility orbs and just seeing...
Agility orbs are fun, yeah.
Having your character like start off and be like, okay, they really can't jump that far. By getting these orbs, I can just traverse this city more efficiently. I mean, was there any sort of base satisfaction in leveling up like that? Did you feel like that was useful?
Yeah, I think the one of the points that I noticed, and I feel bad, and I tried to say this in the review, that like there's a place for these games. I never want this genre, Crackdown, Saints Row, to go away. Like, I think there should be open world, funny, over the top action games you are not meant to take seriously at all. But like, one of the main things that bummed me out is like, I remember, I don't know if they had this in Crackdown 2, but I remember in Crackdown 1 there was like a single base of operations. It wasn't that exciting to be there. It wasn't like an interesting hub world you could explore, but you did have like, here's where the agents come from. Like, here's where you go back to. And because it's this island run by this group, it's just you. It's really just you kind of running around. Like, there's no place I ever saw that like I felt was home or was interesting. But there's something to be said for a game where you just run around. I'm like this could work. Right. Like, you just kind of being this free agent of just like, I'm on my own, Rambo. I'm behind enemy lines. I'm constantly under threat. People are shooting at me all the time, and I can run around and do stuff. And there's just, in any game, if I look up in a building and see a green circle, it's like, oh, I gotta get that. How do I get up there? Like, so that is fun. There are towers that you have to climb, and like you definitely do get that, that Shadow of the Colossus when you jump, that fear.
It's nice, like being on a building and not being able to see the orb, but just hear it and know it's there, and so be like, okay, well, I gotta turn myself around to try to pinpoint this thing.
And when he levels up, like,
yeah.
Like they definitely do make getting more powerful. That probably is one of the best things that this game does, is clearly dividing like these 5 categories you can level up in. The more you do them, the more points you get, the more you level up. When you hit that next level, you're going to get this ability. It's very clear, like the way that you're going to get stronger in this game. But it just didn't entice me that much. And for a game that was just you running around, I thought it should be much more playful, much more crazy in its action.
I want to emphasize that because, for a game that has Terry Crews in it, that stars Terry Crews, that is supposed to be all big for a game that says fuck gravity, all this stuff, it really doesn't ever feel that over the top, or from what I've seen and what I've played, it has not been that crazy yet. Whereas something like Sunset Overdrive, I think, kind of sells its attitude way more effectively and just right out of the gate, and just has more of a style to it. I think that you can kind of latch onto, from the enemies to the weapons that you're wielding to everything. And I realize that this is working within an established series, but it feels like they have plenty of room to go in a better direction than they did.
And for someone who hasn't played Sunset Overdrive, from what I, saw from afar, was this idea of you getting into this new zone, meeting these people who live there, finding out their story, and being like, well, these people are weird, and then there's just a real introduction to like these type of people. And there's these 9 characters within Terra Nova is the name of the group that you have to take down, and each of them will have like their own type of people. So that you go through like the whole pipeline area that's lots of like construction zones, lots of poison. Everybody there has like green guns with sludge that they're shooting out, and it's just the kind of idea where it's like, this is this guy who has a helmet and he makes poison happen in this world, and his enemies are green. It's it. It's just nothing more than that, and so I'm like fighting these people, and I'm like, these people have no personality. They're not like yelling at me or shouting obscenities at me or just trying to psych me out with like their attitude. It's just like, I got a green gun, and it's about as far as that goes. And so Sunset Overdrive is a great example of like making each of those zones really fun. It doesn't have to make sense. It can be super zany and weird, but there's some game I reviewed recently or talked about where I can't remember what it was, where like Just Cause 4, where like they talk about, look at all the crazy things you can do. And it's like, yeah, that's neat, but you never give me a reason to do it beyond look at the crazy stuff you can do. That is one of the... And whenever I show Just Cause 4 to people, like I showed it to my brother the other day, and we were laughing, like he was just losing it for a good 20 minutes. But then when he was done, he's like, wow, that game's really crazy. And I'm like, yeah, that 20 minutes you just have, you'll never get back again, because it's the same thing. The first time you see a cow go flying up in the air, it's hilarious. But the 20th time, especially if the only reason I'm seeing that happen is because I did it, not because there's some challenge associated with it or because the game steered me in that direction, but just because I'm making my own fun. Right. So I didn't play a lot of the game co-op, but I bet co-op's a blast if you make it so. But there's no reason... even the stuff in multiplayer with the destruction, like you can destroy buildings. There's not a lot of incentive. There's no multiplayer modes that say, go destroy stuff. It's just like, oh yeah, that's a part of it. Yeah. But
what kind of a bummer that the game, we've been waiting so long for Crackdown 3.
Yeah.
People had a lot of enthusiasm and love for Crackdown, especially Crackdown 1. And this doesn't even really seem bad in an interesting way. It just kind of seems...
Why was this delayed?
Yeah.
This is not the game you delayed.
Yeah, I think that's the question. I think you hit
when they first announced it, I was like, oh, sweet. That'll be a great game for a new gen. I'm curious to see how it upgrades. And then they're like, oh, it's going to take a little longer. Like, why? I played Crackdown 1 and 2. There's no reason it should. We should not have high expectations for this game. And then just every time we saw new trailers and everything, it was like, we learned nothing new about this. What on earth is taking so long?
Sure.
And after I'm done with it, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. This game should have come out 6 years ago. I don't know why. Jeez. Or 4 or 5 or whatever.
Don't know why.
Brutal.
It's kind of an open world fiesta on this frame trap. You played an open world game, Huber. Far Cry New Dawn.
Swimming in sevens, baby.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a good way to start off the conversation. The interest level, I'm not the biggest Far Cry aficionado, but there didn't seem to be any buzz about New Dawn. No. Like from announcement until now, not a game that I saw a lot of clamor for. Does there deserve to be some clamor?
Yeah, it's really good. Jones, I'm so glad you're here, man. You're going to love New Dawn. I really like this game. It's got some problems, as you can check out in the review, but enjoyed my entire time with this game. And I had like a couple things left over to do to get 100%. Like after the review, I'm going to do it for fun. Just because, because it's just a fun, good game.
So from the outset, I think the fear that people have, the worry, whether it's justified or not, is that it's just more Far Cry 5 with like a few visual differences.
Yes and no. It's really nice because it's finally Ubisoft saying, okay, let's just trim everything down. We don't need 100 radio towers and a 5 times Skyrim-sized map. Let's just make it lean and efficient. And that's exactly what New Dawn is. It's a way smaller map. There's only like 22 main missions. Like, I got through the entire game with doing a bunch of extra stuff in like 13 hours. So just a nice, refined, cleaner version of Far Cry and Ubisoft's open world.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you bring up because I definitely felt that with Far Cry 5 where, okay, in one area, building up resistance points and taking off all these boxes and making this meter go up is like okay for a little bit, but to keep doing it in 3 different areas, it did feel like it, to me at least, overstayed its welcome a little bit. So how are you progressing through this game? In what way is it smartly trimmed down? Like, what's your thrust?
Yeah. So you are in the very bottom left of the map. So you have like kind of your back against the invisible wall of the map, you know? You're down here. Mm-hmm. Top corner is like, all right, I'm clearly like working my way up there, you know? The very beginning of the game starts out where they kidnap someone. It's like one of the very first missions, not a spoiler. And you have to go rescue that person. And that's like pretty high north. On your way up north, you know, you're going to find some outposts and treasure hunts. So you're kind of just working your way up. And just like in that sense, it's linear. But at the same time, you do have a lot of freedom. I saw some complaints about like you don't have freedom because there's like enemy levels. So your guns and the enemies can go from level 1 to 4. And level 4 is elite. So it's like, if I'm level 1 and I immediately go to an outpost, you can keep redoing the outpost and it'll raise the difficulty. But I never really ran into a problem where I was like, oh, I want to do something and I can't because you're just getting so many resources from everywhere. So I felt like I had a ton of freedom to explore and tackle the game the way I wanted to.
Something that kind of stood out to me in the footage that I've seen of New Dawn, haven't played it yet, is for a post-apocalypse, it doesn't the environment itself doesn't seem like too terribly damaged. Like a lot seems to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
which kind of surprised me. I don't know if that is actually true for the whole game, but
yeah, it is. It's 17 years later, so there has been time for.
I see. Okay,
so it's a huge time jump. I was disappointed that they didn't take more risks with the map. You've seen the images of just like pinks and yellows.
Yeah.
That's the map. There's no like, let me go find some crazy nuclear wasteland area. Like, let me discover something. I never felt like I discovered or found anything memorable. The whole map kind of blended into one. I was never like, dude, I'm gonna go back there.
Weird weather spawning and stuff.
Yeah, there's some stuff end game where it's like, oh, this is kind of neat, but it's very, very short, very specific.
Does that stuff translate at all? Like, are the weapons a lot different and crazy? Are the enemies a lot different and crazy?
So that's nailing it, Ben. That's the other main criticism I had was the weapons don't take advantage. You get pistol, shotgun, sniper rifle, assault rifle. The only clever weapon is the saw launcher, the one they kept advertising and showing. You can shoot these saw blades and they ricochet. You get it. It's the very first gun you get, and then that's
as crazy as it gets.
As crazy as it gets,
because that's like a good starting point.
Yeah,
right.
Saw launcher. Right. Let's work up from here, and
it doesn't.
And you just get your shotgun and your assault rifle. Yeah, which was kind of upsetting, but whatever. The shotgun's good, so I was happy.
You have a base, right? You have a kind of a base of operations.
Dopamine intake.
This is gonna hit me. Right?
Yes,
feels.
Jones, you're so pumped. Yeah. So again, everything is lean, right? There's 10 treasure hunts, which are amazing because each treasure hunt, you'd like these a lot, Ben.
Okay.
Each treasure hunt is figure out how to get the stash. Some of them are like grapple, traversal, jumping from place to place.
That's in Far Cry 5, though.
Yeah, but they're just
that was some of my favorite bits, actually.
Yeah, there's just a fewer of them, and I felt like each one was more defined. There's one where like you have to figure out a code to a door by like these, I don't want to give it away, but like you have to figure out a door code, and that sounds generic and boring, but the way they do it is really clever and fun. So those are all really fun. There's like 10 outposts that can all be replayed unlimitedly. So you just have so much freedom the way you want to level up. It's like, let me just grind this outpost over and over and over and over and over and just get so OP in the beginning of the game, and then I can just like steamroll, you know?
Man, you saying there's just the right amount of stuff is a praise I feel like we don't get to give often enough.
Yes.
And so like kind of the underneath this, it's like it's more Far Cry, but they made it the right length this time. It's kind of what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
The story and the characters, I could not stand. Just like Far Cry 5. Far Cry 5
was a
is
pretty rough blow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I feel that way about 5 too.
The good news is that like with everything in the game, there's just less. So it's not like forcing you into all these cutscenes. It's not shoving it down your throat. Like there are still long cutscenes. The main story obviously has moments where it's like, all right, I gotta sit through this story. Just so many of the characters are so annoying.
Do you ever get kidnapped?
You do not. Yeah,
you had to think about that.
I had to think about it.
We're talking.
It's fine.
It's fine.
The doubt is creeping in.
It's not a major issue, then okay.
Yeah.
But just 5 was out of control.
I think
with that.
one of the best parts of 5 to me was the companions and just like dropping bombs on somebody who was in a plane or sending in your bear.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun and felt kind of like a special Far Cry thing.
Yeah.
Are the companions cool and useful here?
So most of them, like the best ones, are just uninteresting. You get like Carmina. She's fine. You get
What does she do?
She just has like an assault rifle.
I see.
Just standard. And then you get like the priest is back and he's got a shotgun. And again, he's just, it's nothing. He's fine. He's uninteresting, whatever.
Okay.
But then like Herc is back and it's like, please do not speak. Just stop speaking.
Yeah.
I like,
dude, the Mars expansion for 5 was all Herc. And I was like, whose idea was this?
Yeah.
Herc's, like,
I don't hate remember.
Herc. I don't hate Herc that much, but like,
luckily you can you recruit him.
Sounds like it's a good
You
thing.
bench him. What's good is Timber the dog, and
is Timber the same dog that was in 5?
different dog.
Different dog. Okay.
The bear is gone, Cheeseburger's gone, but in Cheeseburger's place is Horatio the boar.
That I'm guessing that once you assigned Horatio, he never left.
Him and the dog, both. Love the dog, love the bear. Because the
having
dog,
2 animals
the boar,
feels great.
the dog is stealth, highlights enemies, so super good.
And the boar charges in.
And the boar is a tank.
Yeah.
It just charges in. I have a clip in the review where the boar is running off the screen on fire. Just like, it's just really cool. So, also the biggest addition, the last real thing we need to cover, on my end is the expeditions. There's about 20 of these. These take you to locations outside of Hope County, outside of the map.
That's smart.
So you visit other places in the U.S. You go to a Florida aircraft carrier. You go to Alcatraz Island. You go to Alcatraz, and those are all really cool because you get to see other areas of the map, but it still boils down to kind of like an outpost. An outpost is kill everyone. This is go in, get a package, get out. So they play
are they
similar.
at least dramatically different in terms of visuals?
Yeah, it's not like crazy different,
But it's noticeable.
noticeable for sure.
Okay.
So that helped kind of alleviate the.
And I think a
the
lot
main
of
map.
I saw a lot of criticisms because in 5, like you've got Heaven's Gate, which is terrorizing this part of Montana, and a lot of people, you're like, oh, it's like Die Hard. We're just like, we're stuck here. How do we get out?
Yeah.
And it's like you're in a helicopter. Just leave. Go get the National Guard and bring them back. And like I think they did like an okay job of kind of saying like, well, you don't want to leave because you care about the people that are here, so that's kind of why you're stuck, even though you had no name in Far Cry 5. But I wonder if that's a response to that criticism, that there's just like, makes no sense why we wouldn't just leave. We can get, there are helicopters? Can you fly around?
He's one of the people you recruit. When you recruit him, then you unlock the ability to do expeditions.
Cool.
You get in his helicopter, you ride off, and
I'm playing this.
yeah, you're playing it. You're loving it. You're loving it,
I
Jones.
really liked in Far Cry 5 how easy it is to get into vehicles and just get around. They really made that pretty convenient most of the time. I do wish there was like a third person cam for driving.
Yeah,
I always
I thought
prefer that
so many times.
when I can have it. But yeah, a condensed Far Cry sounds really good. It's just, it seems like there's kind of a lot in this Far Cry 5 block. You know, you have Far Cry 5, which launched at $60, then you have a $30 season pass, and then you have $40
Yeah,
New
this
Dawn.
is 40, so it's
Yeah.
less than a main game. But
Yeah, do you think it's from what you're saying, this kind of slight twist, some cool things here and there, really great that it's condensed. Do you think it's worth that $40?
I'd say, yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. If you like Far Cry, then 100%. If you're weird or lukewarm on it, you know, if you didn't really care for 5, you're like kind of on the middle ground, maybe wait. But if you like Far Cry at all, I definitely think it's worth it.
And you said, I believe you told me, like, just getting through the campaign about 10 hours.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good...
Nice and easy.
Yeah.
If Crackdown 3 had come out 3 years ago and cost $40, we'd be having a very different
Very
conversation.
different
about it.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's co-ops back too. You can do co-op stuff, and so yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
Can you customize your character like 5?
Barely, but yes, it's there.
You can like pick gender and
Yeah, gender and like some hairs and
Sure,
some
yeah.
like
It was not very robust. But
Not
it was
at
just
all.
nice when you.
Late last night, I haven't finished Far Cry 5 yet, and so I like at midnight I was like, I'll boot up some Far Cry 5, finish off a region, the second region, and play. And you can spend real money to get stuff, and I don't remember that at launch. Like I may have just be forgetting, but did they sneak that in?
No, I think that was there. That was there
Okay.
when I reviewed it.
So interesting you bring that up. That's in New Dawn.
Uh-huh.
Never once even remotely
Yeah,
for
that's how I felt
even
about 5, like-
even a millisecond. The cool thing is too, the treasure hunts, you can find some of that currency.
Yeah.
So if you do all the treasure hunts, you get kind of a nice stash. With it, you can either buy more perk points, which by the end of the game I had way more than I needed. Like they have skills where you can just keep pumping it in.
Yeah.
I was at that point where it's like, all right, sure, give me more ammo because I have every skill already. And you can use it to buy crafting materials. Same exact thing. Where I was like, dude, I have so many crafting materials. I never need to do this.
Yeah.
And then lastly, you can buy a couple cosmetic things. But when you replay an outpost, you get a chance at a drop. So if you want like the gorilla mask, you know, keep doing the outpost and it'll drop. You can buy it from the get-go with real money. But again, never even for a millisecond thought it was worth it, but good to bring up.
Playing in Far Cry 5, I did not feel like... I felt like I actually had plenty of money to get what I wanted when I wanted it, but it was just kind of a moment where I saw it and I was like, is that what I think it is?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, who's doing this?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
It just... It's one of those things, and this is happening a lot these days, where, yeah, you could ignore it, but it just...
It's annoying it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you know, it just
Yeah.
kind of takes you out of the moment a little bit. And
Totally.
it like, it makes you just, it plants that seed of doubt in your head, and I think that can make the ruin the vibe of the experience a little
Totally.
bit,
And it
for sure.
devalues so many things in the game. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, I earned those perk points, you know? Let me earn them, not just pay up.
Looking at the perk tree actually last night in Far Cry 5, something that always annoys me in games is when like perks or skill trees or whatever it is don't feel that special. And in 5, just like scrolling through some of these perks, I was like, I don't want any of these.
Oh,
A lot of them, yeah.
I mean, yeah, not any, a lot of them. But
you have to unlock fishing. You have to use the perk points to fish. And the grapple and the glider. So there's a lot of traversal
I just want it to be a
ones.
tough decision, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So, yeah, bit of a bummer. I want to talk about a game, and I'm so excited to bring this to you guys because I knew I was going to like it, but I didn't know that I was going to love it. I finished Metro Exodus, reviewed it. The script is written. Hopefully the edit will be done soon. But I was really captivated by this game, and it was a game that kind of just kept building for me, where I was like, oh, and this is a game that really wears its heart on its sleeve. That I don't know. This is only pure speculation, but it doesn't always seem like it had the biggest budget. but it didn't stop it for going for crazy things. And there's so much to talk about, whether it's the way they structure the story, whether it's the things that you can do, whether it's the design of the encounters. But I think the thing for Metro Exodus to me is really the world. And I didn't play Metro 2033, but I played and reviewed Last Light, and I liked Last Light. But I
better than 2033 in nearly every way.
Okay. Yep. I didn't love Last Light the way that I love Metro Exodus, and it has to come down to the world.
And I love Last Light. And I know you love Last Light.
I like Last Night. I liked Last Night enough where I was like, I definitely want to play the next Metro game.
Yeah.
But now with Exodus, there's just like there's real passion behind it, and it's something that you really need to experience for yourself. It's a hard thing to fully justify in words, but there are 3 main areas that you go to throughout Metro Exodus, and these are very open-ended areas. And as you go along, early on in these areas, the first 2 specifically, they will mark stuff on your map. And what is great about Metro Exodus is when I say, hey, you're in this open world and they mark stuff on your map, it probably makes you think that it's like every other open world, and it's really not. There are never that many map markers. Nice. They're very conservative about where you're going, and it starts out as nothing more than a white circle with an X through it. But when you go to these map markers and you explore these places, what you find is often way more interesting than you initially think it's going to be, and the journey itself is really incredible. These environments are so well realized, whether it's just kind of this winter city-ruined hellscape, this scorching desert, or like this kind of like lush forest. Just these areas are so big, but everything feels like it was done like very meticulously by hand, where it's like, if I go off in this direction, I'm going to see something completely different. If I go in here, I'm going to see something completely different. And they're just constantly visually refreshing you. But beyond that, in Metro Exodus, you can go down so quickly. So if you're like, oh, I'm just going to run over this map marker, you're really discouraged from doing that because you'll be swarmed by mutants or you'll be shot and killed. And so I found that the game trained me very early on to be like, you are holding down that C key, and it's control by default, but I always switch to C. And you are crouching everywhere. And doing this, I would like hear these mutant beasts like feeding, and I would just sneak past them like on the edge of my seat, like waiting for them to pounce me. I would like kind of be scanning the environment and be like, oh, there's this giant winged beast under the bridge. Or I'll be sneaking through tall grass and packs of wolves will be running by. And I think that's the thing Metro Exodus does so well, is it is a game that will tell you, hey, this world is really vicious. But it actually sells you that by exploring, by just walking around. And it's so nice having a game being like, I'm excited by this, not because I'm going after some crazy loot, not because, I want to see the numbers go up, not because I want to get a level. This doesn't really focus on any of that. It's because simply what I'm seeing is impressive enough on its own. And that's a really refreshing mentality as well. And you'll get objectives where it's like, hey man, I would really love if I had a guitar. And so you'll go and you'll like scour this place, you'll grab a guitar, not so you can see the numbers go up, but so you can bring like a little bit of joy into this person's life.
Yes.
And
I have
that's
so many questions.
Yeah.
So many.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So go ahead and hit me up with some questions.
Okay. The only thing I didn't like from Last Light compared to 2033 was I felt like there was less horror. Is the horror focus back? Were you terrified? I know you just said you had those moments where you're like going through the leaves or the bushes and wolves are coming. Like that's pretty horrifying. But are there like horror?
I would say definitively yes. However, like qualifying that a little bit, it's not constant. Mm-hmm. It is not a horror game. Yeah. I don't think it scared me as much as some pure horror games would.
Definitely.
But yeah, and where what I want to say about that is in between kind of these big, more open-ended areas, you do have linear segments. that are more focused, and those are just as exciting because they are A, scarier, and B, focus on big dramatic things happening.
Nice.
And yeah, this game is just paced really well. Despite how big these areas were, I didn't feel like they went on too long. I didn't feel like the linear sections went on too long. I didn't feel like there was too much of anything. And so that was really good. But yes, I don't really want to get into it too much, but you talk about horror. Let me just say the final act of this game is my favorite part.
Nice.
I really liked it a lot.
And from what I
Excellent.
played at E3 last year, I would say more dread than horror because
Yeah.
I didn't fight like a lot of big monsters, but like I do remember one point specifically that they kind of demoed before we got a chance to play it, so I knew it was there, and it was this kind of sense of like I know I can go in there to get an item, but like am I gonna get stuck in here? It's like really claustrophobic. Like I'm going into like a real tight cave.
Yeah.
That like it was like maybe it was like an old prison. There's lots of like metal bars and stuff and like mutants that I can hear walking around. And like you said, there's always that question of like, do I Resident Evil need to kill everybody, or can I just rush in there and grab something and rush out? What do I want to waste right now? Med kits or ammo? Like, what am I going to spend on going through this? And very early on in that snow area, like there's a kind of like a cult that you meet, and so there's this sense of like meeting NPCs and kind of getting a vibe of like what's a day like living here? What are you like? Can I trust you? And it's not so cut and dry of them being like, this is enemy, you kill them. These are friends, you save them. Just I thought that was really interesting going through that area and just kind of that little slice of life of how these people survive, what kind of culture that they've built up. So that can be spooky in its own way.
Yeah.
Just kind of Texas Chainsaw, like, I'm going to get out of here, but thanks for the supplies. Like,
in terms of actually surviving and the mechanics that it places on top of you, the more that I thought about it, the more I was impressed with this like brilliant balance that Metro Exodus finds, where there are very hardcore survival games where I feel like it's about that, it's about those mechanics, and then there's something like Fallout where it's kind of there, but it's pretty light. This feels in between, where when you're going into a heavily irradiated area, you're going to need to put a gas mask on, and that gas mask can crack, and then you cover it up, or you have filters, and you can only have so much time with those filters. Your guns will get dirty, and they will jam, and you will need to unjam them in the middle of combat. Your flashlight, you'll regularly need to crank it.
Love that.
Yeah, and when you kind of sit there and you write all this stuff out, or when you talk about it, it sounds like a lot. It sounds like, oh man, like sure this game is going to be cool, but maybe it's going to be constantly a chore, and it's really not. All of the things that I described are easy to take care of, but they're also demanding enough that they kind of make you sweat. There were several times where like mutants would be swarming me, and I'd try to shoot my gun. I'd be like, no, my gun has mud on it. I need to unjam it. But I could unjam it quickly and then get back in the fight. And so it wasn't like this moment where I'd be like, oh man, I'm just going to keep dying here. No, you'll get through it just fine. But these little things constantly add tension and constantly reinforce, like, you are a survivor. You need to pay attention to this stuff. You are part of this world. And they do it. They like find this amazing balance of making you feel like that and just like getting you into this game. You really feel like you're there without annoying the crap out of you. And that applies to crafting as well. And so what's brilliant about crafting is there's these two different resources that you need to get to craft pretty much everything. And if you explore a lot, which you're going to want to do, you'll get a lot of these resources. But things also cost enough that it's not like when you're crafting, you're making everything. Like you're always going to be able to make something, probably, but what you choose to do will kind of define your play style and make you feel like, oh man, do I want another Molotov here? Do I want to like make sure I've got plenty of med kits? Like there's still pretty interesting
Did you ever
decisions.
run out of bullets?
I did not completely run out of bullets, no. Okay. So you can carry 3 guns with you, and a couple of those things, like you can craft bullets on the go. So you can whip out your backpack and you can kind of like craft the bare essentials almost anywhere. but there's certain things that you could only do at a workbench.
Nice.
And I felt like that was a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I'm never going to be completely screwed over. I can get the bare essentials, but I can only clean my weapons at a workbench. That's pretty important.
Am I remembering this from Metro where you actually use less resources at the workbench? So you can make an upgrade to something while you're out on the road, but it costs a little bit more. And then if you use it at a workbench.
Last of Us.
Okay. I might be confusing that with something else.
Maybe.
Yeah. I actually don't know if it costs more. That's something I should know that I'm not quite sure on. But there are there's a good chunk of things that you can only do at the workbench, such as certain types of ammo.
Really love the physicality of this game.
Yeah.
Where like the map that you were talking about is on a clipboard. And like
Yes.
the compass direction is actually like a physical metal compass that's on
Yeah.
it. So like it's not, behaving the way something would in real life where like it's actually moving depending on the direction you're at and you don't see you physically moving it. But like just the wooden texture of this board and the fact that it's not this super flashy techno, upgraded thing that like this is just what I found because I'm in this apocalypse. The fact that you actually take your backpack off and you can hear it,
Yep.
the leather and the
You
zipping.
unzip it to go into the crafting.
And I love when you add new things when you're at the workbench, the gun will like jiggle a little bit. Like it kind of moves like click, like you actually snapped the thing on, and it's just this great. It looks and sounds like it would.
Gun
and for
jiggle.
somebody who like, there's something about I hate shooters that automatically reload my guns. I
Yeah.
love like. Breaking my shotgun out, click, 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 and then breaking out my machine gun and changing the clip. Like I just love the feeling. That's why I love Red Dead so much. Like I just love actually feeling that and getting a sense of like what it would be like in that world. And I think Metro like goes out of its way to really give you a sense because you would cherish these things if you were actually in this world.
Right.
So I love the care that they give it.
They totally try to get rid of as much HUD as possible, and they find so many clever ways to communicate information. And this was true in Last Light as well, but it deserves being talked about because it's so well thought out. Like just your visual indicator, whether or not you can be seen, or rather whether or not you're in light, is just this little bulb on your wrist. It's not some giant eye in the center of the screen or something like that takes up a lot of space. It's just as minimalistic as possible. Even your damage, it's just this light ring around the screen. Your compass, like you said, is again right on your wrist, as well as how much time you have left on your filter. It is all very contextualized, and even on the map that you were talking about, if you kind of want like, okay, what's my current objective? You flip over that map, and he's written down like, this is what I'm doing right now. It's not, you don't have to go into a menu.
Without spoiling too much.
Yeah.
We have followed this character Artyom for this is the third game now. This is like wrapping up his story.
Yeah.
Were you satisfied with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I hadn't played Last Light since it came out, and so there was a lot that I had forgotten about. And like I said,
I'm gonna
I
have
didn't
to reread a wiki or something.
Right. And so I hadn't played 2033, and so a lot of it was like, oh yeah, that is a person, or this is a thing, or this is kind of the situation. There's a lot of reminding of this. What I love that Exodus does is you really don't spend that much time alone. You are on this train with this group of people. You treat them like your family. And you can just spend, and this was true in Last Light as well. I remember getting into a lot of conversations, but you're on this train, which serves as kind of your hub, your base of operations. You can just walk around and go have a smoke, or you can walk around and get into conversations with anybody. And I was surprised at the length of some of these conversations. But people are going out on missions with you. It's not just like, we're going to send you out by yourself for no reason. We're going to divide people up. You're going with this person. You're going to spend some time getting to know them, getting their personality. You have a wife, Anna, who you spend a lot of time with, who you end up caring about a lot, only because this game is reinforcing what you're fighting for. It's not just like, hey, Artyom, you care about these people, go off and play the game. It's like, you care about these people and you're going to spend a lot of time with them.
Awesome.
Which I think is really important to make you invested in protecting these people, which is really cool. And there are other characters that you run into along the way, but they don't really take the focus away from the central group. It's really about this group of people, and they do some pretty good stuff there. Cool. However, that does get into my criticisms with the game. There's just kind of some awkwardness with this game. Jank is not a great term, but it does come to mind here. Some of the voice acting, some of the line delivery, and some of the animations. This is a game that is constantly trying to sell itself, whether it's the world or the emotion, and it's just like not always able to quite do that. I said in my review, it's like they're trying to find this emotion, they're trying to work through it, but they can't quite land on it. And so I think some things that were meant to be a little bit more serious didn't always come across that way. And there's just some weirdness, like there are missions where you'll be following somebody and it's like this person, the way that they're walking is a little bit weird, or they're moving a little bit too slowly, or just when you're fighting, like I snuck up on a bandit camp and a guy was just sitting on air, or like enemies would just be like, there'd be 2 cover points and they just keep flopping from one to the other to no real end. It wasn't doing much for them. And so, yeah, it is a game that is rough around the edges. It crashed a couple times for me. That was a bit of a bummer, but it's worth it. Like, it's worth all that awkwardness. I guess the last thing about the story that I want to say is the core focus in your group. I ended up caring about that group a lot, but there are offshoots. It's like, oh, we're going to go take down this person, or we're going to get involved in these people who believe this stuff. They were never, ever, ever even remotely as compelling as
that was such a strength of Last Light.
Your core group.
Dude, like those side characters that get introduced were so memorable and strong.
They
nobody like...
They're there. There are different people that believe different things and different situations that you get in, but they're never as strong as your own fight for survival, in my opinion.
Cool.
And I do want to stress, like, I hope this game does well. Like, we talk about open worlds, we talk about mechanics and all this stuff, and everything in this game just seems like it's at least trying to be in service of its world and being authentic. Like, there's a real authenticity to the post-apocalypse that they sell here. And like I said, it's a game that wears its heart on its sleeve. It sometimes like reaches beyond maybe what it's capable of, but it really goes for something special and it hits it more often than not. Like, people should play this game.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I love the train. Just in terms of your understanding of the map, like everything always extends from the train. Again, the only map I played was the Frozen Wasteland.
Yeah.
But like, you would, any place that I ever visited, with the exception of like when I was like in a dungeon or trapped in a building or something, I could see the train. And so that was one of the things, not to bring the saltiness of Crackdown 3 into this, but like when you talk to Goodwin or this gal named Echo, those are like the main 2 people that are encouraging you and really telling you, so providing the only context you have for anything going on in the world. And like, where are you? Like, they're not in like an aircraft carrier or in a building I can go visit, or even like if I can't see them and there's no character model, at least I know where you are. You know,
Sure.
At least I can see, oh, okay, that's like our base of operations. And it was exciting to me when I met one of these NPCs, met this guy in a sniper tower, and that I would talk to, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna head back to the train, I'll meet you back there later. And then somebody called me from the train, and I'm talking with them, and I'm on this elevated position, and I can see the train. You know, I can't see anybody that's there walking around, but it just, that is so important to me, you know, to have some kind of context for like where I am coming from, where I'm going back to, where I started, so that if I get, you know, it's just a different kind of feeling. It's one thing to go explore a world and, you know, wherever you are, there you are.
Yeah.
It's a different thing to look back and be like, that's where I came from. Like, oh, that's where I started, all the way back there. And even so many years later, after open worlds became a thing, that still gets me excited.
Yeah.
You know, I still, you know, that little twinge of love, of passion for this world. And so I was excited when I read your review and you said like, these characters are great. You know, I love going back to the train and seeing what people are doing. Like, yes.
Yeah.
Very important.
It is nice that a game carves out so much space for its own cast. But one of the best parts that I need to talk about that I can't believe I forgot is how they handle weapon upgrades. So I've said multiple times, like, this game does such a great job of reinforcing its own world. But these weapons that you get, you'll loot enemies and you'll get little bits and pieces that you can just kind of slap onto your gun, whether it's a new scope or magazine or barrel. But what's really cool about it is you don't really know where these dope attachments are going to come from. Like, you might just take out a bandit cap and be like, oh, this random bandit had this cool scope and now I have it, now I'm going to slap it on. And so it's not like, okay, I have to go to like the clearly marked treasure chest.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this feels realistic. Like, I don't know what's coming when, and just kind of building these guns out and seeing how they transform is kind of this like slap it together approach that works really well, of course, with the setting. And so, the weapon progression was fun. It was surprising. And it works really well thematically with the game. So just kudos to Metro Exodus all around. For sure. This was a game I was looking forward to, but I didn't have like 10 out of 10 hype levels for. And it really impressed me. I was saying to my girlfriend last night, like, I miss it. Like, I was really stressed trying to get the review done. Yeah. And now it's over. It's like, oh, damn, I want it back. Yeah. Because it's been a long time since Last Light.
Long time. They had the Redux, which was so cool.
I think Last Light was like 2014,
I want to say.
13, something like that. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And then Metro, the first one, I think, launched only on PC.
360 as well.
360
I
too?
think,
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was PC and 360 at the start. Yeah. I still want to play 2033. I want to play 2033 more now that I loved Exodus so much.
It's short.
So, yeah. A lot of games to play.
Brandon, I was bummed that...
I'm happy I'm done with Crackdown, just for the record.
Sure. There you go. We need that. Balance that out a little bit.
Like, Ben, I feel like I relate to you the most when it comes to like wanting games really to succeed, but it like actually making you sad and affecting you.
Yes.
Like, I went to the PSN store last night. Where's Metro? Why is it not on the front page of the store? Where are you, Metro? Like, I went just to go see what was up.
Yeah.
Wasn't there on the like featured page.
Yeah, man. Stupid Apex
Legends was there.
Is stealing their thunder,
Kingdom
man.
Hearts 3 was still there. I was just like,
this is a game that feels like it needs every advantage that it can get. Yeah. And this whole like Epic Games controversy is like, I don't know if it's swallowing it, but it kind of feels like that.
Yeah, no, it didn't need that. It's a bummer.
That is a conversation worth having, totally. But just taking on its own merits, I think this is a pretty damn cool game.
Yes.
And I wish this stuff wasn't getting in the way of it. Yeah.
And just PSA, quick, you can the Redux is out, really cheap.
Yeah.
Really short. If you're interested in what Ben had to say, and you really want to get into this game, you can either jump right into this one or go back and try the other ones.
Yeah.
So
Exodus is definitely referential and it is continuing the story, and so having that context will help you. That being said,
jump right in.
I really do think you can jump in and fall in love with this game the same way that I did. Like, don't stress about it too much.
Definitely.
Yeah, it is not required to enjoy.
Definitely.
Brandon, you said the forbidden word a long time ago, and we're just coming up to it now. The demons could not let it slide.
What have you done?
Do you know what it was? Because once I say it, you're going to be like, of course.
It was Crackdown.
No. That's
not
funny,
that easy.
but no.
I don't know what it is.
Poopy. Couldn't let that one slide. They're like, that language is not allowed.
Inappropriate.
Here. No.
Should have said muddy. I knew I should have said muddy. It's the word I picked for the review.
Poopy is great.
Top tier MCU joke.
Said muddy on Frame Trap, poopy in the review.
Top tier MCU joke is Age of Ultron the beginning. Language.
Yeah.
Captain America.
Final Fantasy IX just shadow dropped after the direct on Switch, and it's on Xbox as well.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say this without knowing for sure. I got the Switch version, but I think there's like crossplay between the Windows Store version and the Xbox version.
Ooh.
I'm not 100%, but I think I read that.
I like that.
Cross ownership.
Yeah.
Cross saves.
There's not like FF9 co-op all of a sudden.
No.
No. Cross accounting.
Yeah.
Cross accounting. Sounds like a puzzle game.
And Final Fantasy VII coming to Switch next month and Xbox, I believe, as well. I don't have these details well nailed down as I should.
It's good direct.
But I took this Final Fantasy moment to have a little bit of fun with Scott and Frame Trap, and I have some general Final Fantasy trivia.
Oh dear.
That we're gonna do. This one's multiple choice. As soon as you think you know the answer, give me it out there. It's kind of from all over the place. Kind of took the whole series into consideration.
Cool.
And we'll see how hard this is for you guys. I'm actually not sure on the difficulty of this one. There is one that I think is a softball, but we'll get right into it. So just shout out the answer as soon as you know. Keep points at the end. Whoever wins will break us out of this frame trap. First question, which Final Fantasy game did Sid first appear in?
2.
2, yeah.
Huber said it first. I'm going to give him the point. We didn't even get to the options. Well done, Huber.
Mm-hmm.
Which of these Final Fantasy games came out last in North America? Very important to this question. Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 5, or Final Fantasy 11?
3.
It is 3. Huber's cleaning up so far. How many discs did Final Fantasy 8 on PlayStation 1 have?
3?
3, 4,
4.
or 5? Huber's right with 4.
Sweeping the Final Fantasy question.
7 had 3 discs. 8 had 4. Okay, so in its prime, in North America, I guess this applies everywhere. How many platforms could you play Final Fantasy 11 on? How many platforms was Final Fantasy 11 available?
Before it went away?
Some of these you can't play them on there anymore.
Wait, when
Right,
it
yeah,
launched?
yeah.
Not when it launched,
Oh,
but like what
3.
was? It was 3. What were they?
360, PS2, and PC.
Guys, correct.
PS2, duh.
360, PS2, and PC. Huber, crushing it. Last
I like Final
question.
Fantasy. I haven't beaten many of them, but I like it.
Yeah. I didn't play 8, but I know how many discs it is.
Last question. Which military group does Cecil command in
Ooh, this
Final
is all
Fantasy IV?
No multiple choice?
Yeah, there is. Sorry.
This is all
okay.
you, John.
Just Huber hasn't needed it.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
remember-
Is it the A, Chocobo Knights,
No.
B,
No
the
clue.
Returners, or C, the Red Wings?
The Red Wings, yeah.
It is the Red Wings. Brandon avoids a clean sweep there. I respect it. It is the Red Wings. Is it Cecil or Cecil? I always doubt myself. I said Cecil as a kid.
Is what the question of every Final Fantasy
Sure.
game. So, you know,
Yeah.
I will still, I will not correct anybody that wants to say it, but I'm going to say Titus until I die.
I said
Yeah.
Titus for a very long time.
I know it's
it is Titus. Yeah.
I know that's the official way.
Yeah.
But no.
It's especially hard for ones where
Tina.
like I just grew up thinking it was the right way, and so it just kind of got lodged in my brain.
Yeah.
Like it will always be Cecil to me.
It's like Mr. X. It's like it's Tyrant, but I'm just gonna call him Mr. X. Like, just because that's how I grew up, you know.
Yeah, you
Mr. X
actually
is
said-
Mr. X is incorrect.
Well, it's from like the novelization, which is like not
kinda-
really
it's kinda
canon.
like
I thought it,
Like,
you
we
know?
know
like
his
I
name,
knew
but they
Mr.
never
X
said
was
it.
a tyrant,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah, it's from the novelization originally.
wow,
Yeah.
all right, the more you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, at this point, like because so many people grew up with it and because the name stuck, it's almost honorary canon. Like,
That's funny.
Huber, you are going to break us out of this cotton frame trap, but
Thank goodness.
before you do, and you've plenty of time to think of a great, awesome way to get us out of that frame
too
trap.
much pressure.
This little game is brought to you by some wonderful sponsors. Our first sponsor is Greg, TheDarkKnight Kettering. Thank you for your continued support, Greg. Also, thank you for your continued support, Zotig. Hi, allies, with the hype train for Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers pulling out of the station. I wanted to send out an invite to any allies on the Mattias server or greater Aether data center to join our free company or cross-world link shell. Search Zotig up on Twitter at Zotig and send him a message. Whether you're just starting out in Eorzea or have been playing for years, let's get ready for Shadowbringers together. Next one, we've got JoJo's Dent Co. Thank you for continued support.
That's XOTIG. Zotig.
Zotig, X-O-T-I-G. Yep. We'll put it up on the screen,
Right.
but it is also always good to spell it out. Professional Jones over here.
Hogue always makes me spell it out.
Yeah.
Even like he'll
Stickler about it.
Even when I get, because I do it every time,
Yeah.
and he'll send me like new. He's like, here's the new text for the podcast this week, and at the bottom it still says spell out. I'm like, I know, Hogue.
Just trying to get it right. I respect it. Thank you, JoJo's Dent Co. After that, we've got Accounts Payable, and they are going to kind of put you guys on the spot. Hubert, you dealt with this last time, but they just like are giving us a free shout out for anything. Oh yeah. You want to just shout out anything? You have anything that you want to plug? Look at that face. He doesn't know.
Just all those demos on Switch, man. Go get them.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of shadow drops from that direct.
Yeah,
Don't miss it.
I had kind of a fun evening of just trying all that stuff out.
Yeah.
It was nice. Man, the sneezing. I never just sneeze once.
Yeah. It's,
I always sneeze like 10 times. It's
the
crazy.
It's the end of our podcast. Is Bloodworth. He's like, there's just some certain amount of
Yeah,
time
yes.
that everybody's got to keep
Yes,
sneezing.
that is me. I guess it's everybody too.
Yeah. It reminds me of I was seeing a Poltergeist when like the lights flicker and he's like, there'll be another one in 10 seconds. Like whenever I sneeze, it's like, wait for it.
Yep.
Another
I gotta
one's
watch that
coming.
again.
It freaks out the cats when I sneeze. So when I have like a 10 sneeze hissy fit, they're just like, "What is wrong with you?"
Sophie will attack the cat when I sneeze. Somehow it's the cat's fault.
It's the cat's fault.
Whoa.
Probably true.
I mean, playfully, just knock him over. But like,
We'll see if there's a sneeze in this sponsor reading, but thank you to Oh Yes, Cool Great. After that, we have Gift of Heaven is a full blast epic RPG that you deserve.
nice.
It's a free 3DS RPG Maker game created by me, O.M. Hawkstelter.
Nice.
Gift of Heaven draws inspiration from Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and Forrest Gump. The perfect combination.
Speaking of the Oscars,
He strives to use RPG Maker FES's totally sick pre-made graphics and sound in sneaky ways that will result in a handcrafted GOTY 2019 contender. I like the confidence. Use the RPG Maker FES 3DS app to download the prologue on August 7th and full game on Halloween night. Check out YouTube October 1st for a killer trailer.
Dude, sick.
I actually need to... I messed up and I thought I had this sponsor text on here, but I need to look it up really quick. And so we're going to break the rules a little bit. Huber, while I'm looking this up, can you get us out of this frame trap?
Yeah, I'm going to ask for energy. I'm going to summon a spirit bomb of hype
whoa.
and throw it through this frame trap we're in
Okay.
all the way over to Metro Exodus.
Just giving it energies of success?
All of it.
Am I okay
All
sitting
of it.
here?
Oh,
This
yeah.
is not
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there still an explosion, or is it just kind of like
It's like,
absorbing that energy?
remember when like Krillin catches it and stuff? They're like passing it around.
Okay.
It's like that.
Okay.
I'm going to pass it. Passing the spirit bomb through.
A benevolent spirit bomb to Metro Exodus. I like it. Sorry about that little hiccup. I do have our next sponsor's text ready to go. This is from Colton, and he says, I currently work in a manufacturing plant in Texas, and while it pays the bills, it is a bit unfulfilling. My passion is in games media. I became a sponsor to help my side projects grow and hopefully lead to something better. So if you can check out my streams on Twitch, my username is Yoltmane, that is YOLTMAYNE. Check him out on Twitch. He also writes and does reviews for a website named IndieRanger.com. Check those out and help Colton follow his dreams.
Sick.
Hubert, that spirit bomb was cool. But what's also cool is our mega sponsor, which has been around for a little while now, but it's still a cool, clever idea, and that's Fantasy Critic Games. Fantasy Critic is a news site where video gaming meets fantasy football. Grab your friends, create a league, and face off as you predict what the year's top-rated video games will be. Just like fantasy football, you'll hold a draft and stock your roster with the hottest up-and-coming titles. At the end of the year, the player with the best lineup of games, based on review scores of OpenCritic.com, will be crowned the winner. Think you know what game will come out on top? Head to fantasycritic.games now and play for free forever. He knows. He knows. Hey, Brandon, since you read so much stuff, how good at you are you remembering like stuff like that? Does it come easier to you, like remembering descriptions and scripts, I guess?
Yeah, there's no formula for me to like if I need to remember something specific. But
Yeah.
one thing that I enjoy is I do the podcast producer credits for the Easy Allies podcast. And it's always great having names like Ohyescoolgreat and like knowing these people like, oh, I know that name. I haven't
Great.
met that
Yeah.
person, but I see that name come up because people feel good when I'll get an email from somebody and they're like, hey, you probably don't know me from the community. I'm like, I do know you because
Yeah.
I say your name every month.
Cool.
So
We only have a couple more games to talk about, and they're going to be shorter, I think, than the other ones. Just some quick shout-outs. But,
Shout out.
Shout out. Tetris 99 is a pretty cool game. I don't know if you've played it, Brandon.
I have not.
Or checked it out, Huber.
I want to, though. I will.
Huber, are you much of a
Battle
Tetris guy?
Royale Tetris.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bossman stream tonight.
Boston
We're
stream
shooting this on
tonight.
Friday,
We're
but
shooting this
yeah.
on Friday night,
Yeah.
but I'm sure that's great. Go check that out on the Twitch
exciting.
archive or when it gets up to YouTube.
What an awesome thing this is.
Yeah,
So
it is awesome. Didn't know what to make of the announcement. Didn't know what to make as I was booting it up, but it is extremely addictive and very fun. And so, just like the name implies, you are facing off against 98 other players, and as you're going, you're just playing Tetris, and people can send garbage your way. You will send garbage. The amount of garbage you send will be based on the amount of lines that you clear. And it is extremely stressful because you can see like when the garbage is coming, and you can clear lines to try to reduce what they send to you. So it's like, okay, I'm just trying to play Tetris, which for me is stressful as is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fight off these other people, and if I get really bold, I'm also trying to attack people and send garbage their way and knock out people. What's kind of cool is as you're playing, you can manually target people individually, but there's so many people that's a little bit overwhelming. And so you can generally target based on criteria. So it can just be random people that you're targeting, trying to send garbage to. You can be trying to target people that are close to being knocked out. You can target people that are attacking you, or you can attack people that have a lot of badges. And the problem with Tetris 99...
Yeah, it feels like you get ganged up on, huh?
Well, there's that. But the problem with Tetris 99 is it doesn't explain itself very well. And so there were whole entire systems or specifics that I didn't understand until I read... Kotaku actually published this very useful article that was like, hey, here's what's going on in this game. Because it doesn't really explain anything to you.
Thanks, Kotaku.
But yeah, as you knock people up, you'll build up pieces of a badge, and the more badge you get, you'll send more, like I'm being reductive about this, but you'll send more garbage their way. And so you'll want to try to get people knocked out, because as you get fewer and fewer people, the people that have badges and are sending more garbage are obviously a bigger threat. And man, getting down to like that top 20 is crazy intense, because the music picks up, you're just getting more and more garbage dumped on you. But yeah, it's just really fun. It is an idea that seems like simple enough that it's really easy to get into, and you can just rematch immediately. And so I've had matches where like you can look at your stats. I was targeted by 26 people at one time, and like there are matches that are just over before they even begin. Like I've started and it's like all these lines are coming to me. I just got screwed. It was bad.
Oh my gosh, Bossman is going to be so upset by this.
He will
something like that.
probably be
Bossman is
upset.
going to be just.
But it feels true to the spirit of Battle Royale.
Yeah.
You just have matches that don't go your way.
Yeah.
And to Tetris 99's credit, like you can just get back in there immediately that you're not that salty.
What a beautiful time for Tetris all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Tetris Effect and Tetris 99,
Mm-hmm.
a VR one, and now a Battle Royale
Yeah.
Tetris, something we never knew we wanted or needed.
Yep.
Seems awesome.
Yeah, and like everything about this is just easy to hop into. It's if you already have the Nintendo Online service, which I know some people don't, but having that and just immediately downloading it for free, no additional cost, is great. It's easy to hop into a game. Games don't last that long, and so everything about this is very pick up and play in a super nice way. And once you kind of wrap your head around the deeper mechanics, yeah, it always feels like you're like, okay, I'm at a point now where it's like, okay, I know how this is working. I feel like I can get better. But like we were talking about with Apex, and it's like, how are people this good already?
Yeah.
That definitely happens in Tetris. Like, Tetris 99 has, like, Tetris Effect already did this, but Tetris 99 is a more intense version of, yeah, I'm not very good at Tetris. Like, I'm not a crazy pro. Like, there are people, it's like, they're looking down like 4 pieces of what's coming next, and I'm just like, how do I fit this in? Nope, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. I feel like I play it like a grandpa. But
Is there any long-term progression, or is this just dive in and
yeah, so
play
you're actually
Tetris?
touching on an aspect that I don't really know about. There are player levels, so you will like go up in rank. I don't know what that really does for you. I think maybe just like the pool that you're going into
Yeah.
a better pool of players.
Can you see when you're going up against the people their level, or no?
Not that I've seen. Really what it is you're like looking at your Tetris board, and on the left side, there are a bunch of small Tetris boards, and on the right side. And so it's like, oh, okay, I can see enough to be like, this person is almost knocked out. Let me target them.
Got it.
But you're not getting like full detailed statistics on them from what I've seen. So, yeah.
Cool.
There's not really that much to say about it. It's just a cool little thing.
Yeah.
I think this raises an interesting conversation about like what other fun old school puzzle, even like Pac-Man Battle Royale would be nuts. You know, like this got me really thinking like, what could we do? What's a fun thing to do where because this is not the most graphically demanding thing, we can really kind of put this on any system, and what advantages can we put with just the original version of this really fun game?
Right.
You know, like imagine a Pac-Man board where it's just like
Yeah.
there's 100 players on it, and like whenever you die, you become a ghost, and now you're hunting everyone else down.
Oh,
and
that'd
like
be so sweet.
the board is slowly creeping into the middle. You know. Like,
Yeah.
And it wouldn't tax the system that much, but would still remind you of that old game. And I'm curious to see what Dr. Mario World,
Dr. Mario World,
if they do anything
right,
like
that's a
that,
thing.
fun ways you can challenge other people, or even just watch other games. You know, just a
Yeah.
fun way that you can customize the experience.
What does the world mean in Dr. Mario World?
That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit leery, Brandon, of like everything becoming a battle royale and that whole meme of a thing. But what's great about Tetris 99 is it really just feels like it's expanding upon what already made Tetris great. I mean, when you're playing multiplayer Tetris, you're sending garbage to people, you're trying to deal with your own board. Like, the basic core tenets of Tetris are there and just expanded upon, so it feels like an unexpected but very natural fit. And so I hope, you know, if they do make a Pac-Man Battle Royale, it's still kind of, at its core, feels like what made the base thing great already. So, yeah. Cool thing. Last thing I want to talk about, kind of similar to Metro Exodus in the sense that, like, it deserves more attention by everyone and myself, is they came out with a new Etrian Odyssey game, Etrian Odyssey Nexus, and this is the last Etrian Odyssey on 3DS. And I didn't play Etrian Odyssey 5, and I only messed around with the Untold games, but I played all of Etrian Odyssey 4, and that was my introduction to the Etrian Odyssey series, and it was so good. It was such an excellent RPG that I was like mad that more people weren't playing it, and it just totally deserves to be much bigger than it is. And Etrian Odyssey Nexus is kind of like, it feels like, and it seems like the way people are talking about it, it's sort of like Etrian Odyssey Greatest Hits, where it's like, yeah, it's more Etrian Odyssey, but there are 19 different classes that you can pick from. And yeah, it does all of the things that I really loved in 4. First of all, there's not much of a story there, but it finds great ways of presenting personality. You go to the inn a lot. That's where you save. That's where you rest, which you will want to do because things will destroy you in the labyrinth that you go into. And the innkeeper is just kind of like this sleepy person who has this giant fat cat on her head. And it's just like, you're wonderful. This is a great way to present this character.
Yes.
You know, you're just kind of serving a function of being at this inn, but, you know, at least you look humorous and charming. And the art for all of the classes is really great. I'm only a little ways in. I was primarily focused on Metro this week, but it has already captivated me. Like, you could say this about Etrian Odyssey to death, but going into this really Byzantine dungeon and having to map out everything is really cool. And there's like, just beyond leveling up and getting skills, just slowly uncovering each square of this map, and you're actually doing it. You're making notes of what's here. You're marking it the way that you want to, is really powerful and cool. And I love how challenging Etrian Odyssey is. Like, you go in here, and it's not like, okay, you're going to do fine for the first 10 hours, and then maybe you'll have to pay attention. You have to pay attention out the gate. Like, anything can destroy you.
Sick.
You don't get fed a ton of money. You get a lot of your money from selling animal parts, and so you have to defeat enemies to get their parts, and then you have to use those parts to either enhance your weapons or sell stuff. That's really great. And we talked about Far Cry and being like, man, I wish every skill was cool. Like, skills are so valuable in this game. You start and you only get 3 skill points, and everything that your character does, for the most part, feels really valuable. And because enemies are so hard, when you get that 1 skill point for leveling up, and it's just 1, you really stress about where you're putting it. And because you have so many different classes, and they're also specialized, you have to think a lot about party composition. And that's really cool. And the classes are just creative. And so the hero class, which is a new class for Nexus, when you use skills, you'll be able to create an after image of that attack, and so in the next turn they'll just repeat what you did, and so it's kind of, to borrow Naruto, like shadow clone jutsu.
Nice.
Get a
Yes.
follow-up attack, and that's really neat. And then you'll have this like Ronin who will go into different stances depending on the attack that they choose, and if they're in that stance and they do a special category of attack, they'll get a critical hit. And so there's a lot of flair there, and the force system is really cool. So you have this gauge, and you can either consume it to get like a light buff, or you can cash it all in and get something really powerful. So like the medic will heal and revive everybody if you use this force break attack. But once you use it, that's it. You got to go back to town. And until you rest, you're not going to get it back. And so deciding on when to use that is really, really valuable. And like I used it just getting to a boss. And I was like, nope, I'm going back, getting that stuff back, building back up. And so, yeah. A lot of the things,
really hardcore.
It is hardcore, but like that's probably why the series isn't bigger than it is. But it's hardcore in a way that feels very fair, and it's like, hey, these systems are interesting enough that if you're willing to like spend some time poking around and figure out like what the flow of this game is, it's so rewarding. And it's rewarding immediately. Like all the time we say the thing that sucks about JRPGs is you're kind of just sleeping your way through it for maybe 20 hours, who knows. But Etrian Odyssey doesn't let you sleep through it, and it like gets to the good part of JRPG battle systems right away. So that's great. Sorry, that was just me rambling on, but yeah, I think more people should pay attention to that game.
Well, I pitched Ben Rembles about JRPGs as a show, but you were like, I'm already doing Frame Trap.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
right. That's right. It already happens on Frame Trap.
Factor it into Frame Trap somehow.
Yeah.
How's the music?
The music is good. Very, like fantasy game music. I guess I don't really know a better way of articulating it, but it's pleasant. Nice. When you finish a battle, the bum 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 bum, the like trumpets make you excited that you vanquished your enemy, which is really all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. If this convinces like one person to check it out, and hopefully convinces me to stick with it, because these are long, hard games that are hard to stick with, but they're worth it. They're worth the effort. There is something though, like a lot of times when I come to this show, the thing that we talk about at this point is a little bit difficult for me, because I don't want to force it. I want to make sure that I actually care about it. Mm-hmm. And this week, I care about the Hokage a whole lot.
That's a good one.
And
really good one.
I didn't realize actually until other people on the internet pointed it out. I was like, oh yeah, this is like kind of shitty. And I want to get your opinion on this. So during the Nintendo Direct, they announced Dragon Quest XI Definitive Edition. Okay? And just taken on its own, seems pretty hype.
Way better. Japanese VO.
Well, yeah. Yes. New character-specific stories, which they did not go into detail about. There's the 16-bit 3DS style that you can play in, which the 3DS version did not come out over here and looks so sick, and it's awesome that they're putting it in the Definitive Edition. There's also a fully orchestrated soundtrack.
I know.
Which was one of the biggest complaints about Dragon Quest XI. And there's Japanese VO, like Huber mentioned. So this is great. If you have a Switch and you've been holding out on Dragon Quest XI, I feel like you can jump in and you can feel good. Square Enix is undecided on bringing this game, these additions to the other platforms, PC and PS4. Dragon Quest XI came out, a few months ago?
Yeah,
several months
ago? September.
Not that long ago. It's February of the next year, okay? Spending $60 on that game. Dragon Quest is a series that, doesn't have booming popularity over here, deserves more popularity than it gets. Square Enix is telling us that this fall, roughly a year later, you're going to have to pony up another $60, presumably, on a totally different console. And if you already put in the time and effort on another platform, they just don't know if you're going to be able to pay for this.
Crazy.
Brandon, are we crazy in thinking that this is unacceptable?
What do you mean another console?
I'm saying, I'm sure
the Switch.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can only get this on the Switch right now.
Because you said, they weren't sure if they were going to bring this.
They're undecided. But as of right now, the only way that you can get this new stuff in North America, which is where we live, is on the Switch.
Oh, man. Yeah. am I going to become the villain if I just play brand manager on this one?
I want that. I want a discussion.
Because this is none of the things you're describing are going to make me want to play Dragon Quest XI again. Not because it's not even an amazing game. That was 100 hours of my life, and I'm not, it's going to take a lot for me to, I think, to invest that time regardless of the game that I'm playing. So I don't. Whereas I totally would have played this game in Japanese. Totally, I turned the VO off right away because I'm like, I need to get through these dialogue cutscenes. I can read faster than they speak. I got to go through this game as fast as I can. It still took me 100 hours. And I understand people's frustration with the music. Like, it definitely did get, I think, more repetitive for me when I listened to it than the orchestrations, but I still loved a lot of the music. It still stayed in my head for, a long period of time. I thought there was a good representation of kind of the flavors of different areas. It took me a while to get through the game before stuff really started to get repetitive. And I could see a lot of these things not being available. This is a game that took a long time before we first found out about it to get, before it was finally available to play. And so I can understand some of these things maybe being around and they're like, let's save that for another version. So strictly from a brand manager perspective, it's like, yeah, save that stuff, pump that out on another console because I think imagine if it didn't have all of these things, and then it definitely does not look as good as it did on the PlayStation 4. It's nice to have it handheld. I think that's like a no-brainer. But especially since a handheld Dragon Quest is probably what a lot of fans have been used to for a couple years now. So does it suck? Yes. Is it a smart business decision? I don't think it's a terrible one. Especially if you're really trying to add a ton of value to that Switch version. If you're a Dragon Quest fan and you're upset, I'm not going to tell you you're out of line. Like, I think it is frustrating.
Yeah, I'm upset.
But for me, there's just not a lot of raw emotion coming from me. It's an emotion I have to understand and not feel.
I'm upset because this game came out way before North America and Japan.
Yes.
So it's been out for a while.
Yes.
Okay. I took a while to get started to begin with, and now I feel cheated because I finally decided to buy and play their game.
Yeah.
Like, if they had told me, hey, you know what? We're coming out with a definitive version later on. Like, you can plan accordingly. Now here I am on the final boss, dude. I'm at the final boss on Draconian mode. I'm 80 hours in, and now all of my emotions, all of the work I've done to get to this point, they're just shitting on me as a fan. I feel legit shitted on as a fan of this franchise. It's unacceptable. I can see them backpedaling and giving this out for free or a paid expansion. I can totally see this change happening. But as of right now, in this moment, I feel horrible, and I'm just bummed out right now.
You feel
so
horrible
bummed.
because you love it, because you're
I love
attached.
it so much.
And the idea that you're playing the not best
An
version of
inferior
it
version.
is insulting because you feel like that choice was taken away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
And a couple of things to point out. A lot of this conversation could be moot in a week or a month or in 3 months when they're like, hey, we're going to backpedal,
like tomorrow.
Change.
Yeah.
But it is, I think, it's still important to talk about because it is so upsetting and nonsensical. And it is true, you can mod the PC version to put the orchestrated version in. But I don't think that really... Why treat your series like this? Why treat your series that could stand to have a lot more attention brought to it? Like, why are we acting like it's 2005 when so many other companies are bending over backwards to make this stuff as easy as possible? I haven't even played the Witcher DLC yet, but think about how, and obviously it's not a one-to-one comparison, but it's like, here's something new where you can buy, you can just play it on its own, you can have a character, you don't need to bring anything in. If you just want to play this, you can do it. And it's just one example of, I feel like, so many companies try and get as many people in as possible, and not just with Dragon Quest, but it's especially offensive with Dragon Quest. It feels like Square Enix is going out of their way to piss people off and close people off.
It's like they're like, okay, all right, has it been a couple months now? Have our sales stopped? Okay, they've stopped right now. Let's announce it. Let's do that.
Right. And you could argue that we knew the Switch version was coming since forever, but we had no details.
Yeah. I thought it was just going to be the same version.
Yeah.
Not some golden version. Dragon Quest XI Golden. It's ridiculous.
I think it's the difference between obviously, like you were saying, like there is the fear that the audience for this franchise in America has capped. You know, like where it's going to be very difficult to bring new people in. I think selling anybody on an 80, 100 hour experience, regardless of genre or whatever, is a task. And so I think there's a difference between taking steps to improve that, taking steps to make sure that this is a game. I think it's a very accessible game. I'm very, very happy. This was like my first big, other than Builders, my first big Dragon Quest I experienced. No regrets at all from playing it. I know, I'm really proud of myself. But
That's a
I
win.
think,
For anime.
that wasn't necessarily the advertising. I think that was you guys, that really brought me in and made me realize, like, I want to have this conversation with you. I want to be able to share these moments. I want to be a part of that. And I wonder if they're like, we don't know. Like we're wringing our hands kind of with just like, wow, what else can we do to make the audience bigger? And if we really want to have the resources to make this a viable franchise to continue, maybe we do this kind of stuff where it's not a matter of getting this franchise in front of new eyeballs. It's kind of jerking around the people that we know are going to be there and support us.
And like devil's
and
advocate,
in a weird way, we gave you something. It's like, oh, that you wanted the voice acting. There you go.
Devil's advocate, I can see maybe the Switch version is taking longer development. They saw the criticisms and we're like, oh, let's fix that now. But if that were the case, then you say, hey, for the people that already own the game, you come out in front with that.
I have no problem with you coming out with a Switch version.
Yeah.
I really don't have a problem with you charging it $60 for it. Dragon Quest XI Vanilla is worth $60.
Totally.
I believe that strongly.
Yes.
But the game industry right now is so connected, and I feel like constantly we're having an evolving conversation of being like, hey, maybe do it this way, or this is what your fans really want, and changing and adapting on the fly. And the more that you can pivot, the better. This whole thing to me, and so much of Square Enix, just seems like this is how we're doing it. Pay up or get out.
Yeah.
We're not going to support you. We're not going to listen to you. It's just like, I feel like the passionate community for Dragon Quest is there. I feel like the potential is there, but it's not being fostered in any way. And we bring up this example to death, but really the success of something like Monster Hunter World or even Resident Evil 2 or Devil May Cry 5
Yakuza.
and Yakuza is it feels like they're kind of in tune with what that audience wants.
Yes.
And they're evolving.
I'll agree with that 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
They're evolving accordingly, whereas like Square Enix has closed the door and it's like, this is what we're doing and we're just going to spit it out there. And I hate it.
Yeah.
How
It's because
much-
they've given up on everyone but Japan with the franchise or something. That's the way it feels like. It's like, hey, we care about Japan only. Like maybe it'll come out elsewhere. If it does, here it is. Stop talking.
I don't know, but like, aren't people in Japan bothered by it? Like, wouldn't they want this stuff on the platform that they invested in? It's not like.
I mean, I could see them being upset too, but at the same time, it's been years for them. It's been a couple months for us.
Sure.
So like, no even inkling that this was coming. No warning, nothing. Just like sale stopped. Boom. Let's announce it.
It's like, how much is the animosity of your audience worth to you? Or how much will that cost you?
Yeah.
Versus how much more sales will we get on the Switch, because people are gonna, people own a Switch. Oh, yeah, I wanted to check that game out, or I'm dying for a good meaty RPG on the system. This is perfect timing. And people that are like, I'm gonna play this game again, shell out $60, because I know you're like, it'd be great if they get out ahead of DLC. Do we have a launch date for the
Fall. Fall.
I would not be surprised if this launches on Switch and then a week later they're like, oh, by the way, this is going to be free on PS4. And you're like, I just spent it. It's like, I would not be surprised if they do that.
Oh my gosh.
And the audience will be pissed. But is their anger gonna cost you the money that you're gonna get from the Switch? And I think that's just Square's play. Is they're like, love us or hate us, you're still going to pay. You're still going to give us money.
Yeah.
And we just don't care. And so when you see all of these other companies that are making these smart decisions in trying to find a bigger audience for their games, they realize, and I'm not saying one's right versus the other one being wrong. Nintendo on the Switch makes a lot of weird decisions. It's like, who am I to say they're, with all the consoles that they're selling, that they're wrong? It's just that, in this very social media run industry where lots of people have loud opinions, is this something can you weather this storm? And is it worth doing, just to make a buck? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to monetize, the attitude of your audience.
It is strange because I think the animosity bothers me less than the generating of goodwill, where I feel like goodwill is such a powerful currency in gaming right now. I feel like Apex Legends is kind of riding high because it feels so fair. Like they're building up a lot of goodwill because it feels like you're getting involved in a free-to-play thing that doesn't immediately feel super scummy. But Huber, I want to throw this question at you. Definitive editions of games, especially on other platforms, are not new, right? You can think of like Persona 4 Golden, for instance. Is it just the time frame that feels gross about this to you?
Well, I mean, I look at games like Dying Light, Jones.
Right.
Terrible launch.
Yeah.
Horrible. Hey, guess what? We're going to redo the entire game, and if you already bought it, you get it for free. Awesome. Thank you. That's how it should be. I was a loyal customer and bought your game on day one. Now you're rewarding me and giving me this for free. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I crazy for wanting the world to be like that? Like, are those too high of standards?
It just doesn't feel like Dragon Quest is budging in any way.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it had a lot of support leading up to launch to begin with. And now it's just like pay up on a different console. It just, the whole thing about it just kind of smells bad.
I bet it's like, I wonder if it's like some tech thing where they're just like so bad at tech that they can't find a way to like patch it all in or something on PS4. So they have to have an entirely new version. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but who knows?
I don't think so.
Let's go out on a limb and say like you're correct. That should not be happening at Square Enix.
Yeah.
Even things like Etrian Odyssey, they've had demos where it's like, hey, you can play completely for free, and all of the progress that you build up, you can transfer over. Just like no bone is being thrown here, and I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
So,
even Anthem's not even out, and they came out. They're like, hey, we don't have cross-platform saves yet. Maybe down the line. So we're like, okay, a little hope. But then they were like, yeah, but for next-gen consoles, like you're going to be able to take your stuff over. So it's like just the communication, planning ahead. I'm all about that.
With all this being said, and I agree, communication super important. Yeah. Like if they just got out in front of this a little bit more, it wouldn't feel so messy.
Yeah.
With all this being said, I'm totally going to buy Dragon Quest XI Definitive Edition day one.
I 100% recommend it because, like, for me now, I can't because I did hard mode. Mm-hmm. If I'd gone through normal, this would have been, I would probably be less pissed because I'd be like, okay, I'll just buy it again. Now I can do my hard run.
See, but like that's like where I'm coming from.
Exactly, dude. Perfect time.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, I think this situation is a mess, but I love the game enough that like I'm willing to put up with this bullshit just because I love it so much.
And they know it.
Yeah, and they know it, dude. And I know it. I'm like so Disney. So is that? Am I just simply part of the problem?
Square
and it's not
Disney,
anymore.
They should get together. You know what I mean?
More complicated
they should do something.
Like if I am this bothered by what they're doing and how they're communicating, should I not buy it? Should I? Is that a valuable protest, or does it not matter at all? What do you guys think?
I don't think it matters. I'm sorry, Ben.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think
I'm sorry.
Right.
Well, think about it. Here's a conversation. PS4 Dragon Quest fan, Switch owner, RPG fan, never played Dragon Quest. Yeah. That Switch person missed Dragon Quest, and then I didn't watch the direct, but I followed them on Twitter, and so all this announcements, and I text my buddy, Dragon Quest on Switch? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, cool, I should get that, right? Yeah. What? Sounds like there's something in your voice that you're upset. He's like, well, they're adding this stuff, and you explain everything, and the Switch owner says, okay, so I shouldn't buy it? No, I buy it because I want you to play it, and then we can talk about it. Like, okay, well, then why are you angry if I should get it? Like, it's a long story, So, dude, they won. Like, there's no anger that's going to be bad enough that 3 years from now, you're going to be upset about the next Dragon Quest. You're going to remember the way they screwed you on 11.
That's the thing, is like
that Switch owners aren't going to want to get this game if they didn't play it on PS4. And people in your condition who just cherish this game so much, I'm going to buy the damn thing anyway.
And it's like, I'm upset. I'm going to be fine in a couple days. you know, like you're saying about boycotting, you got to save your boycotts for like real issues. Like, this is bad business. This upsets me.
Yeah.
But they're not like doing anything crazy offensive, you know?
Right.
Yes, I agree with you, and that is an important point to bring up. I don't think this is like some great injustice to keep you up at night or anything.
Just annoying as
No.
hell.
It is the bulk of my frustration is that like, kind of what like we were talking about with Metro Exodus, and it's like, man, it's kind of a shame that this controversy is swallowing up a great game that could really use the attention. It's like, if they were just handling it better, there would be more people out there experiencing this. Like, the game itself is great and does so many things right, and so it's just weird when these bad business decisions feel like it's kind of shooting that potential in the foot.
And
that's where
the
I'm coming.
fans, dude.
Yeah,
It just feels bad as a fan.
You don't feel you don't feel valued as a Dragon Quest fan
at all.
Right.
At all.
I think it's better for companies that aren't Square Enix to see this and to look from afar and be like, oh, okay, that's how that community reacted to it. Good to know.
But if you do kind of want Square Enix to kind of wake up and not do dumb things like this, or what I think is a dumb thing. Maybe no one else is bothered by this. I just think it's like crazy that out the gate they're not like, hey, we're going to bring this to the platforms, don't worry. How do you evoke change? Because I feel like really popular things, right? If Fortnite makes a dumb decision that feels money grubbing or just out of whack, a lot of people are up in arms because it's getting so much attention. Whereas here, like, whether you boycott it or buy it or do anything, it's hard to imagine anything changing. Like, how do you send a message to Square Enix effectively in any capacity, whether you like it or don't like it, for this series?
Feels like they're not gonna listen. That's how I feel right now.
So
where
do you
it's
just have
falling
to
on
accept
deaf
that?
ears. I guess. I mean, we have a platform where Easy Allies, we can like speak about it, but that's about it. Like, can't really do much more. I can send them an angry tweet, hope they read it. I don't know, but like, I don't use Twitter for anger, so
Sure.
I don't know. You know, and again, it's I feel like at the end of the day, they just aren't really concerned with it because they're going for the Switch sales, you know, for people that are going to buy it no matter what, even with the controversy, and people that don't have other systems and haven't played it and are just have a Switch and are ready to get the game.
Brandon, this doesn't seem to bother you at all, which is totally fine. Are you going to pick up the Definitive Edition as a Switch owner and somebody who likes Dragon Quest XI?
No.
Why is that?
It's 100 hours. You know, it's just that's a massive time investment.
Yeah.
I wish I had gotten that game. You know, I would have loved to hear what these characters sounded like and the language they were written for. I would have loved to hear what that orchestration sounds like. I would have loved to take this game on the go. Those are three things that would have had a lot of value to me, just because I was grinding so much gleefully the whole time. There was no moment I was grinding that I was like, oh, this is a slog. I was like, this is great. I'm going to run around in a circle and fight stuff and just automate my whole team and just,
the battle starts.
Just watch them beat each other up. That I could do that in my last little 10, 15 minutes before I go to sleep every night. Oh, solid gold. But I missed the boat. It was a bad time for that to come out.
Now you can grind at 16-bit.
And Square Enix is a company I'm used to being like, Square?
Right.
Like, what are you doing? You know, so it's not, I don't get that shock, I guess.
Yeah. I just feel like Square Enix could have the world, and they don't. Like, they just keep choosing to not have
They do
it.
weird things with how they roll they make great games and make weird decisions with how those games are rolled out.
I am really curious what other people think. I wonder if this is going to be one of those things where it's like, you guys are blowing this way out of proportion. It's not that big of a deal. Or if people are like, no, man, I played Dragon Quest XI on PS4 and I want this stuff.
So many games, dude. Free updates.
Yes.
You know, I think of The Witcher 1 and 2.
Resident Evil 2 just dropped 3 character stories for free today on a game that is already amazing.
New outfits for Spider-Man.
For free.
Boop, for free. There you go.
Just like The Witcher, dude. Like, The Witcher 1 on PC was rough when it came out. They had an enhanced edition. If you owned the game, you got the update for free. Period. Cool. That was Witcher 1 was that over 10 years ago?
But now you see how excited people are for Cyberpunk, and it's not just that I'm
Cyberpunk gets
excited.
the goodwill.
That I'm excited because it's a quality RPG. It's just like I know that they're, especially with it taking as long as it is. You're not like, oh, classic Cyberpunk, not able to deliver on a long development time. Like they have. Every game they make is better than the last one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, GTA 6 is taking forever. It's probably going to suck. Like, nope. It's like probably going to make a lot of money and be a very big, crazy game. And so I think that stuff adds up. I think it's really important to communicate to your audience and not, leave them behind. Not just act as a service where you're just kind of like, I'm going to get fast food tonight because there's nothing better. It's like, no, I'm excited about this meal. Like, that kind of vibe. Square.
But yeah, play that game if you haven't. It still deserves your support.
Yes, it does.
Are we ready for emails?
We are.
Thank you for the discussion, gentlemen.
I'm going to beat it tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah, I'm at the final boss.
Nice.
Well,
you think you are.
Before the credits, I know there's like some post game.
It's a good bit. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, you should be. I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, our first email comes in from Max. He says, hello, Ben and the rest of the Frame Trap panel. My question today is about revisiting games.
Nice.
When I first started playing Danganronpa, another episode, Ultra Despair Girls, I just couldn't get into it. Maybe it was the jarring change in gameplay from the other Danganronpa games, or the somewhat clunky controls, or that the pacing of a mix of visual novel plus third-person shooter was too frustrating. All of these things are true. But regardless, I put it down. The game and my Vita had been collecting dust for about a year and a half since then. Recently, experiencing a lull between major games to play, I found myself thinking about Ultra Despair Girls once again. I found my long-lost Vita charger the other day, brushed it off, and booted up the game. And I have not been able to put it down since. I find myself loving everything I couldn't stand before, and am now totally invested in the story and the strange, despair-inducing world being presented to me. So my question for the panel is, are there any games that you've had a similar experience with? A game that you just weren't into at first, but after some time away from it, came back with a new appreciation?
Dying Light. Talking about that a lot. Yeah. Dying Light.
When it came out, what was your first response?
Rough. No, thank you. The original version, before the huge update.
Was it like technical issues, the way it was designed?
Yeah, technical, just didn't pull me in. It felt like a chore. Had barely played it. Enhanced Edition came out. I was like, okay, I'll give it another shot. I did, and now it's one of my favorites. Love that game. Absolutely love it.
A recent one for me is The Division 1.
Oh, I love The Division.
So, The Division 1, I was like just coming off of being really disappointed in Destiny 1. And I think being really cynical about just its whole concept and being like, yeah, the Dark Zone is cool, but like this is just so shallow and so like just making the numbers go up and dull. And I played it for a little bit and I was just like, no, and forgot about it. And then it kept popping into my mind. And I didn't ever go like hardcore with the Division 1, but I booted it up within the last year and I was like, I did not give The Division a fair shake. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a mind-blowing 10 out of 10 game. I don't think it's that. But it had more going on than I initially gave it credit for. And that's why I want to give The Division 2 a fair shake when that comes out.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Division hype.
I can't really think of one. For some reason, I think Witcher 3 I started and then like put off finishing for a long time. And then like there was clearly like the back end of Witcher 3 was much bigger than the front end as far as like me putting all games aside. This probably doesn't fit. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for this, but like I always marvel at my experience with Minecraft, which is so different from every single other game, because I think there were 4 giant eras of Minecraft, and I've never like experienced that where like I would play it and be like, all right, okay, that's a fun game, but okay, all right, Minecraft, okay, and then would jump back in and hit it even harder than I did before, and then be like, okay, all right, Minecraft, that was good, and then again, like back again, playing for like a month straight, just like a whole new server, or like I'll have a new friend that hadn't played it before, and so now we're playing it together. Or it's on a new console, and when it popped up again on Switch, I was like, I can't, I can't do number 5. But I think I get that way with books a lot. I remember
Sure.
The one that always stands out for me, which is not only an excellent book and a really good series, but the Dark Material series, which the Golden Compass, which they made the movie. And then I was like, oh, I can't wait for this trilogy. And then they were like, all right, nobody saw that movie. I guess we're bailing on that. But like despised that book when I first read it. And that Amanda was very upset. She was like, get back in there. And I was like, okay. And then like kept reading more and then fell in love with it and then read the two following it. So it's a good feeling.
Man, I feel like even more than like catching up on games or anime or whatever, like it is criminal that I don't read books. I should, and I never make time for it, and I haven't in years, and that sucks.
You know what game is in the early period of that right now, where I played a little bit and was like, this is great, this is really good, but I don't really have a time for it right now, but it's just right there and I own it, and it is Hollow Knight. You know what I mean, man? Like
totally.
To be like 2-3 hours into Hollow Knight, and
me
just
too, Jones.
you can tell.
You
like,
can tell it's a 10.
I have no problems with this game at all.
Yeah.
I love this.
I just don't have time.
There's just a lot of games.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah.
All right.
But I also started Yakuza Kiwami, and you know, like there's
He's just toying with us now.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a
with
lot of
emotions.
things that are just there. I got the Doom 2016 is just sitting on my PS4 right now,
Yeah,
that
toying
I
with
haven't
us.
touched at all.
There's a wound. He's sticking his finger in it. Yeah.
Dude, the good thing about Doom, Jones, is just you start, you play, and the game is over. You do not stop.
Yeah.
You just keep going forward.
Right.
Brandon, I want to make a case for Hollow Knight really quickly. Okay. And it sucks when people do this. So I'm just going to be sucky right now. They just announced a new Hollow Knight, a brand new Hollow Knight game with one of the best characters from Hollow Knight. And what I want to say about Hollow Knight is, with anything, with any media that you consume, the way that you feel about it, like, is going to change a little bit as time moves on. It doesn't mean you love it any less or you suddenly hate it or whatever, but like, just your clarity of perspective changes when you get some distance from it. I feel like so confident now that I've gotten some space from Hollow Knight, and I can say this with like no doubt in my mind that is like a 10 out of 10 game. And I can say it with a confidence that I don't have for like almost anything. Like there are sometimes where I'm like, it's a 10 out of 10 game to me, but maybe not in general. Like Hollow Knight is a do not miss it event.
I think if I play like all the way through Bloodstained and then don't then play Hollow Knight, that's like a crime in some countries. I don't know. Like,
I mean, I haven't played Bloodstained. Maybe Bloodstained is amazing.
I'm very excited about Bloodstained.
I've played
I plan to play it when it comes out, but
yeah. You've played Hollow Knight, have you?
A couple hours in, like Jones, had to put it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I got it on Switch.
It is like, you know how I organize my PS4 folders? It's at the top. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
The top of the folder stamp from Huber.
Yeah. You're up there, Hollow Knight.
I believe. And again, you
High
don't want to be
priority.
that person that is hounding somebody to play something. That's just.
But now,
I'm gonna play Far Cry New Dawn and not Hollow Knight.
yeah, but
That's
now,
where we're at.
Play what you want to play, man.
now Metro Exodus slides into that top spot, you know?
Yeah.
So I got to beat Metro before I even go back to Hollow Knight.
Yeah. Just. I could go on and on and on about Hollow Knight. I have gone on and on about Hollow Knight, but damn, that game.
I got to play it.
Yeah. I know. Hey, you're going to finish Dragon Quest 11 tonight. Yeah.
Yeah!
All right.
Inferior version. Woo!
Ooh, boy.
Real takes the wind out of my sails,
Still
you
the
know?
visuals, man. They're still all those Switch people are getting gifts, but
Yeah.
it still looks way better on PS4.
This is a lengthy email, but very relevant to our conversation on this podcast. This is from Varun. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. Hi, Ben and Allies. I have a strange fondness for Square Enix games because generally I love the games they make, from Final Fantasy to Life is Strange, which is on my wall of shame, Huber. Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, I can generally expect a great time. But then the reports come and they are not doing well. And I'm not surprised at all because Square Enix is one of the worst run video game companies I can think of, with decisions probably being made by people who don't know the industry they're in at all. Let's look at some examples from this generation. Hitman, broken into separate pieces and sold across the year, killing the pacing of the game and the hype for it. Rise of the Tomb Raider, exclusive to Xbox, but also competing against Fallout 4. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, competing against all the annual franchises and Red Dead Redemption 2. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, cliffhanger ending that took place when the story actually kicked into gear. Microtransactions. I actually didn't know about that cliffhanger ending. Damn. Microtransactions, vital story in the DLC, breach mode, and pre-order scandal, which is not detailed. I'm not sure what that is. Final Fantasy 15, unfinished game with entire environments being cut out and a rush story. So my question...
Final Fantasy, I'll give that one a pass just because the development of it.
My question is this. What do you think Square Enix needs to do to turn this around? Is the release of Kingdom Hearts 3 one game, which I think they did justice, I agree, a fluke or the sign of things to come? And also, how do you think decisions like those come to pass? Because to me, as an outsider, it just seems unbelievably ridiculous. So, what can Square Enix do to turn the ship around? Do they need to turn the ship around? Etc.
Start with giving the Dragon Quest XI owners the content for free. Start there. Start small. Get a little goodwill. Let us know you're listening, Square. Let us know that you hear us. Step 1.
So I think about something like Hitman 2, where that game is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't sold episodically. Was the sniper thing just pre-order?
Yeah.
I mean, they had something where you could play a little thing before it came out if you wanted to pre-order the game. I'm not going to say it's like a genius move or anything, but it's something. Game didn't do well. Is that the result of Square Enix incompetence? Did they not get behind the game enough? Did it come at a wrong time? Or are some of just playing devil's advocate here, are some of these things just... It can't all be successes. They can't do everything right.
I think a bit of both. I think that, and marketing is like, I know nothing about it, but you look at games like Anthem, for example. Good or bad, I feel like everyone's gonna be playing Anthem when it comes out. Because of the marketing, they've made it important by having these betas, by having the marketing bucks behind it. Shoving it down our throats. Neil Blomkamp just did a short film to celebrate. So they're everywhere. Everyone knows Anthem, but then some games just kind of fly on by under the radar. Like I checked the store and I didn't see a Metro Exodus like right on the front page, and it had come out like 30 minutes ago.
Sure.
So I think marketing is a big factor.
It's been talked about to death, but I think the expectation that Square has of some of these things, where even if they do seemingly sell well, they still underperform, that seems way out of whack. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit redundant in the sense that we've already spent so much time ragging on Square Enix, but I think the reason why, taking emails like this and having a Hotake like that is because they've produced some things that we're so passionate about. Even recently, like we just had the last frame trap and a spoiler mode gushing about Kingdom Hearts 3, and to me, they did a whole heck of a lot right with Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
They let that game shine and happen. You know, I didn't feel the corporation coming in and doing weird things to the game, microtransactions or DLC stuff, there was nothing weird. It was like a God of War situation. Buy the game, boom, you got it.
Yeah, I do think maybe just having a jumping on point for some of these things would be a little bit better. I think, yes, you can play all of Hitman 1 within Hitman 2, but I don't think that was clear to a lot of people. And the way that Hitman 1 was broken up, I think maybe there was confusion about, hey, do I need to play Hitman 1 to get the story? Even with Dragon Quest, I think people, see that 11 and don't realize that it's separated. Whereas something like Kingdom Hearts, honestly, I think part of the reason it's successful is you can just jump on a Disney for a lot. I think there are a ton of people out there, maybe not a ton, but a significant portion of people out there playing Kingdom Hearts because they just want to run around Disney worlds and they're not paying too much attention to the heartless and nobodies and unversed in Kingdom Hearts. So I think maybe messaging, just being this is what this thing is, this is what you need to know, could be better across the board. And I think it's hard. We even run into that. I see people being where's this meme that you guys are constantly spouting coming from? what is the lore of this particular show?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we just get so in our own bubble that it's hard to be aware of the outside. And I think just all around, it'd be a good thing for people to be aware of.
I think Hitman 2 is just hamstrung by Hitman 1. Like I just don't think I think that was a tall order to try to recover from. You look at like the great start that Tomb Raider had, and I have not played 2 or 3, just like preview events. I've got like my hands on it, but I loved that first Tomb Raider. I thought it was like, what a fun reboot. Yeah. I am so excited about the future of this franchise, and then was subsequently not excited about the stuff that they did later, and felt the same way about Hitman 1. But like, I don't think it's surprising that like Lara Croft is a little bit more, mind share than Agent 47. As far as like a story, me actually caring what was happening to Agent 47, it's like I care more about the worlds and the missions and the tools he has, and so I think that was. They just didn't see him a lot. It seemed like Hitman 2 was sold to Hitman fans, and that was kind of it. Like it didn't really kind of stretch outside of that, even bringing in Sean Bean and giving away as much as they did, to taking as many lessons. I just see Square Enix just feels kind of pompous to me. Like they just seem
exactly.
They just seem kind of like EA, kind of like these bigger companies that don't feel like they really need to communicate these things. And the executives are over here and our advertising companies over there, and we don't have a lot of synergy together. Like it doesn't have an attitude like it did before. Where like when I was originally introduced to Final Fantasy, like I knew who Sakaguchi was, I knew who Nomura was, like I knew these people that were very much tied in personality wise. Like this was a dream projects for them. And even when I went to the Kingdom Hearts event and Nomura came out and talked, maybe this is just Nomura, but it was just like the energy in the room was dead. It was just kind of everyone sitting around like, we're just here to play Kingdom Hearts. We don't, and it was like no one was interviewing him. They were just, someone who knew the answer was asking the question to Nomura. Right. And it was sort of like, all right, when are we going to get through this? And you look at what I think is a humongous success for Square. Probably, I think one of the things they've done right, maybe not sales-wise, but just kind of how they communicate, is 14. Like 14 has had so many successes. Every time they just announced the Nier crossover, like how well was that done? We talked about our GOTY for which seems kind of like a jokey category, but like I loved that when Damiya really went into detail about what they did from, I can't even remember the crossover, for Monster Hunter. Yeah. Like how Monster Hunter went into 14, how 14 went into Monster Hunter, and like these are two completely gigantic companies that are now trying to find synergy, with their products to sell these to both fans or both communities. And I just see this really, I love when I go into the streaming room and Damiani's just watching some 14 event that's already happened that I'm sure he's already watched, but he's just watching it again. And like the language feels like a BlizzCon, where they're like, they're saying something on stage, knowing exactly the reaction it's going to get from their audience, where the audience is excited and now they're communicating, kind of like new Hearthstone cards come out, like here's why we put this in and here's what's going to be happening. And I don't see, there seems to be this kind of like veil of secrecy around some of these bigger titles. And so it'd be great when Final Fantasy 16 eventually does get announced that there's not this confusion, delays, and directors leaving, and maybe I'm directing this game or whatever, that we can have kind of more of a point A to point B through line, through development, then we can have a natural, organic evolution of the anticipation, where it's just like, I am more excited this day than I was the previous day. I know I'm going to be more excited tomorrow than I am today, and not just kind of wondering like, why are you making these sales decisions? When is this game coming out? Why is it taking so long? Sad when that's a thing that's known about your company. Those are the expectations we have when a new Square Enix property gets announced.
Yeah,
that
it's
like,
too bad Brad's on here, because Brad has that meme of like, all I do is wait and wait and wait for Square games.
Yeah.
And it's like, why this studio? Like, yeah, why? Why are we always waiting?
I think the point, Brandon, that you brought up about how they present themselves is so wonderfully true, and it's like odd how different it seems for Final Fantasy XIV, because when Brad and Damiani and I went to a Kingdom Hearts 3 event, it was the exact same situation where they like awkwardly brought Nomura out and they were like throwing the most softball questions that were being translated in this way that felt very rehearsed and dry, and like, yeah, and I even think about the Nintendo Direct that just happened, and whether you like Nintendo or don't like them or don't care about their games or are obsessed with their games, I think like the energy that they have in those directs, the tightness of that 35 minutes, how much they cram in there, how they give you information is engaging.
I feel their excitement.
Yes.
In a pre-recorded, a direct. You feel everything they're saying, every announcement, every game. They're like, all right, here's this game. here's this game. Do you want to hear about this? Here you go, you know?
Just like we were talking about with like Dragon Quest XI and bringing that content to other platforms, I feel like in terms of just messaging and communicating, there are so many excellent examples out there that it doesn't make any sense why you're still operating in this super old-fashioned, outdated, it's like you're presenting to game magazines way that I just don't get.
Yeah.
And what I mean, but not that I have anything against game magazines, it's just, it feels like a relic of the past.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
Our last email is another lengthy one, but I think it's a good question. It's from Brian. He says, "Hey, Ben and crew. Something has been bugging me lately. Feels like every time I hear someone on a gaming podcast, etc., bringing up the topic of gaming stream services, people seem to talk about it if it's just our inevitable future. But why? While I feel confident in saying that the next gen of consoles will have diskless options at some point, I fully expect the main SKU to come with a disk drive, and that's because the infrastructure is simply not there for an all-digital future to be a viable option for a large percentage of people. That percentage shrinks again when you consider how many of these people have a good internet connection, have a great internet connection, one with A, a large enough data cap, and B, one that would be up to the task of streaming games and having that be a good experience." I'm going to cut out some of this, but he says, am I alone in feeling this way, or what role do you see streaming services play in our future? Do you think the effect of removing the cost of hardware would be so great that people would be willing to put up with the potential downsides?
I mean, I always think of games as a service as a genre, not like the future.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like The Division it's a genre. It's going to keep going as you go.
Right.
And I think he's right about like no way next gen is like all digital. Like we don't have the infrastructure for that.
Yep.
You know?
I feel like options are always good. I interact with people who are like, I swear by getting physical. I want that. That's important to me. Obviously, he brings up good points here. However, even just seeing the response to something like Game Pass, and the way that they're doing it with brand new releases, the prices that they're charging it for, the increasing library that they have, and seeing something like Netflix and Hulu and all of those other services, like that stuff is just the standard now. It is not some new, cool, hey, try it out thing. To me, that's at least how it feels like. And maybe that's just an exceptionally privileged position to be in, and I understand that. Maybe there are a ton of things I'm not considering, but I feel like the conversation about Netflix shows is just like, you could watch this new thing if you wanted to. Like, I feel like most of the people that I'm interacting with, like, it's not something that's terribly out of reach, and it seems like something that people are very receptive of, that people are just kind of wholesale adopted, like almost in a smartphone-like way, where it's just like, yeah, people just have this now. This is the new standard. Like, I think you bring up a lot of points and concerns. I do think people should have options. It's hard not seeing things go exactly this way, just based on the precedent that's been set.
So you think next gen or like next gen it'll be all digital? Is that what you're saying?
I think in the next generation, they will continue Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will adopt it. They'll have it out the gate.
So it'll be like way more refined and...
I don't ever trust Nintendo to do anything remotely convenient like this, and in a reasonable time frame ever. But I think Sony might follow suit, potentially. I don't think they're going to get rid of, like, why? Like, if they don't absolutely need to, if it's not a demand, like, if it's or not a demand, not a necessity, like, why get rid of this? Why get rid of, like, fully buying games? But I do see this being something that they push and is an option and that people will appreciate.
That'd be crazy if there were like two versions of a PS5 or something, you know, like here's the one with no disk drive, all digital. Here's the one
but
with...
why do that? Why not just give a disk drive and be like, hey, please sign up for this service?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just thinking of cutting costs and stuff, you know, if that's really the way they want to go, like no disk drive obviously equals less money.
Yeah.
Maybe they can focus on other things in the guts there, you know, no disk drive. Now we can have a better fan or something. Or
I just have to wonder, Huber, like, especially considering how the Xbox debacle happened before that console came out, if like companies have learned that the cost that we could save from something like that is not worth the PR storm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, please don't get rid of discs.
Yeah, think about God of War 2, Huber. Like coming out on PlayStation 5.
Okay. Oh, that got the
Yes,
upcoming
that
God
threw
of
me
War.
for a loop.
The
too.
next one.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
next
yeah.
one coming up.
Okay.
The 2023
Why are we doing this right now? I gotta
God
go
of War
look.
2. Well, we're looking at the future. You know, it's like, let's travel into the future. Okay, God of War 2 comes out on PlayStation 5.
It's beautiful.
That game's going to have a collector's edition. You know, like, that game's going to have a disc. That game's going to have a statue and, you know, Atreus grown up or whatever. Like, there's going to be things that you're going to want to physically own. I don't see that changing in the next 4 years. Like, they're going to want to capitalize on that. There's an audience that's going to be ready for the rest of their lives, like, for that, to wait to experience that way. They're not going to be talking about, like, go, please stream God of War 2. I'd be like, no, you know, download it or get that disc, but don't. What you want to stream is like Siren on the PS2 Siren. Like when I got the PS4 streaming service, it was like, oh yeah, the Red Dead Redemption 1 looked terrible, but I was like, it's right there, it's available. You know, I'll check that out. And that's kind of Netflix for me. Like, there is appointment viewing that I do with Netflix, Buster Scruggs. That was like the best night ever, where I just like turn my place PS4 on, and then it's like, oh, here's a new Coen Brothers film. That's never happened. So
cool.
it is kind of like breaking boundaries a little bit, but at the same time, like the majority of viewing I do on Netflix is like, oh, Temple of Doom, yeah, sure, I'll put Temple of Doom on. Like it's just nice to have access to a collection, and so I think about the rumors Super Nintendo games are coming to the online service for Switch. Like that's exciting for me when I do have just these little gaps in my entertainment consumption where it's just like, oh yeah, I need you to make the suggestion for me. You know, I need like a jukebox of media that I can just it doesn't matter what, I'm not that picky right now. But when it is appointment viewing, when it is time to play Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or when it is okay, now I want to just turn everything off and make sure I am playing this the best way I possibly can. And that is not going to be streaming ever. Yeah, I don't see streaming getting better. I just never see it catching up to how good something can possibly look and play. And
I mean, I feel like on a long enough timeline, as connections improve and get more stable, I could see it happening. And to clarify, he does bring up gaming streaming services, and I agree with you. Nothing that I've seen has shown me that we're like even close to completely replacing downloading something as opposed to streaming something.
maybe Fortnite.
But I do
It's not
streaming.
that taxing on a
Yeah.
system, you know? Like,
I do think, and maybe we're closer than I realize, I do think that something like a Game Pass, where you buy something but can download all those things on that pass as long as you pay the subscription fee, is the way forward.
Yeah.
Like right now.
That's my dream. That's
Yeah.
that, or like
That's what I mean.
when you get a PS5, you now can stream all the PS1, all the PS2.
What, by
That's like
stream,
the
do you
perfect
mean like actually streaming them or downloading them and then playing them as long as you have that pass?
Either. Like, you get a PS5, you now have instant access to the entire PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. Like, never gonna happen again, pipe dream, but that's
Sure.
like the
Right.
dream, taking that Super Nintendo thing just one step further. It's like, all right, I have a Switch now, like, let me stream all
Right.
the NES games, all the Super Nintendo games.
but even
Like,
with Netflix,
that's
you still have shows come
limits,
and go.
yeah.
It's this whole deal. Are they going to
For
lose
sure.
The Office? Are they going to lose Friends?
Yeah.
All of that drama has nothing to do with tech or how many shows
Yeah.
they can fit. It's just all contracts and
Yeah.
and them being like, we got to save something. There's got to be something to look forward to in March. There's got to be some new thing coming that you didn't know. It's going to be interesting to see that happen with games.
Yeah, it has been interesting to see the conversation about Crackdown 3 and how many people have brought up Game Pass, where they're like, hey, we're not evaluating this as a $60 game, and maybe I would like it less if I paid that much money for it, but I've had Xbox Game Pass for months, and I get a new game that'll last me a couple of afternoons.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with that. So it almost feels like it is changing the value of games
Sure.
in a weird way that
Yeah.
I'm not convinced is great,
No.
but
Because
it is
there's a lot of
interesting.
free passes on Crackdown right now, from what I've seen. The
Because of the
initial
Game Pass?
the initial social media was like, it's okay, and it's like, that's because Game Pass. If I
Right.
went out and spent $65 on this thing,
Right.
I'd be maybe thinking a little harder on it. But Game Pass, sure, it is fine, nice diversion. For what's Game Pass now, like $10 a month or something.
Selling me on
15?
getting like I'm not currently I had Hulu for a little bit. I don't have Hulu now, and it's one thing if you like have that Fire documentary, which I do want to watch for Fire Fest that
Really
Hulu
good.
does have, because I watched the Netflix one. It's like, that's one sell, but like having me watch the Fire Fest documentary on Netflix when I have Netflix, like I'm just going to do that, and so I think it's interesting. My game on there is Forza Horizon from last year. I have Game Pass as well. That game's just sitting there, and I think a couple years ago I wouldn't have thought, maybe I'll check that game out. Like I'm sure I would have fun playing Forza, but am I going to make time to do it? Whereas having Game Pass, it's really tough to turn that game down because it's right there.
Right.
It's probably one of the best games to come out exclusively for that console in its lifetime. And I think that's we talked about this a little bit on this podcast, where like I think it's the time to do that for us to be like, hey, just give Yakuza a try. Like, hey, just try Dragon Quest. Just play Hitman for 5 minutes. You may find it's your favorite thing. You may discover things about it that you didn't realize. And I think it's smart for a lot of these companies that are trying to really weigh Blizzard, really weigh like what franchises do we want to commit to and what franchises is it time to say goodbye to. How can we get people to try them for as little cost as possible?
Yeah. I do need to say sorry to Brian really quickly, because his question that I kind of took and made more about Xbox Game Pass was really about game streaming services.
Got
And
it.
he even says in a
I
paragraph,
committed.
yeah, you did. Brandon brought it back, but he says like,
Best in the biz.
honestly, I feel like a service like Xbox Game Pass has much more potential for success in the near future than any streaming service ever will. So that is something that he brought up. And so by cutting out things for time, I cut out a lot of the context there. But still.
Yeah. And it's tough because you want to advertise it, but like I rarely see advertising about something on Netflix before like mere hours before it's available. Like Netflix loves to shadow drop stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw some article that the Coen brothers were making a Western. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it looks neat. Maybe saw a photo from it or something, but it's like I didn't put it on my calendar.
Yeah.
But and I reaped
They've
the
been hyping up
rewards of
the,
just boom, there it is.
They've been hyping up the Scorsese one, but that's only because it's like
like
$300 million.
The Lord of the Rings series. Like there's some big purchases that we know about, like stuff that's in development. Obviously, the Marvel shows everyone's talking about is, are we getting a Punisher season 3? Like, but I kind of like stepping away from that stuff because the surprise is so great.
Yeah.
That I really feel like I really feel the wealth of like having that subscription when I can just pop on there and there's more than I knew. That's what's exciting about
More
streaming.
than you could
Streaming
ever
for me.
consume.
But you take that away when it's and I think Sony's actually done a good job because that streaming service is available on PlayStation 4, but like when they have big events, it's not like please get it.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, it's there if you want it. And I think that's a good attitude to have. It's scary if you're spending so much money on it, but I think that's where those services need to be.
Sure.
It's there if you want it.
Well, thank you for the emails, everybody who sent them in. Sorry, Brian, that your question got twisted a little bit there. But if you want to send in an email, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. It is remarkably hot in here in a way that you probably can't tell, dear viewer or listener.
Feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good
Well,
in here finally.
I just wear hoodies by default.
Right.
I just don't even think about it. I should just probably have taken off
See,
the hoodie.
Bossman's hilarious because he wears his hoodie for the first 5 minutes of every Easy Allies podcast,
Yeah.
and then he like
Then he takes it off.
I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. Just take the hoodie off, man.
Yeah, I should have just taken the hoodie off, but it's hoodie ride or die here at Frame Trap.
It's true.
We go until the end. Frame Trap, part of it is it's an endurance run.
Right,
So you're just
it's
like,
true.
nope, it's getting hot. I'm just going to fight through this.
Pace yourself.
I've been thirsty for the last like 45 minutes.
Yeah, I'm-
some water.
But it's
The water was gone,
but
like,
it's delayed gratification. When
very
you do,
early on.
When you do have that post Frame Trap, research break.
Yeah,
or
you
glass
open
of
the
water.
door. You're right. You're like, oh, I made it. I made it.
Everyone at home, they just get to pause for a sec.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
Nope. If you listen or watch Frame Trap, you cannot.
You should. Can you
Front
disable
to
the
back.
pause button for specific videos? Like Frame
you
Trap
imagine?
doesn't get paused.
Can't get paused.
You unplug your PC. Frame Trap's still going.
Still going. Yep. Thank you for the good times. Brandon Jones there right next to me and Michael Huber. One last time, if you want to send an email, it's askeasyallies@gmail.com. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you next time.